judging by yesterday, went through the roof, didn't it? Well, many of you watching the show this morning as well, and I'm delighted about that. And the headline story, of course, this morning is that Tottenham have sacked Thomas Frank. Tottenham told us just as we came on air, results and performances have led the board to conclude that a change at this point in the season is necessary. Thanks for all those who've been sending in messages, who have been calling in. And the name in the frame at the moment is Roberto De Zerbi. That's who the bookmakers think is more than odds on to take over as the next manager of Tottenham Hotspur. And they don't play for another 11 days. And when they play again, it's the North London derby. Who knows what will happen then? But no doubt about it, Tottenham Hotspur looking at a relegation fight at this particular time. Now, another club in a similar bracket to Tottenham, in that same kind of relegation area, very much so, is West Ham United. West Ham up against Manchester United last night, but then a late equaliser for United through Benjamin Sesko, and it was a point apiece at the end of the night. What does it tell us? Does it puncture West Ham in their bid to get away from the relegation zone? Or, Danny, is the momentum still with the Hammers in what is a battle for survival?
I think momentum's still good. Performance level good. The crowd was with them. It was good energy, well organised. Lots of positives to take from that. And when you're down there fighting for your life, that's all you can do. You keep putting in good performances, the points come. They didn't look like a side fighting relegation. They look well organised. They look fitter and stronger than they have in a while. And that's because confidence is up.
I mean, you were in something similar with Fulham.
Yeah.
What is the mindset at a time like this?
Well, I mean, the hardest thing to do when you're playing games down the bottom, I found, was enjoy it. But they looked like they were enjoying the task. And that's credit to the manager, because they were dead and buried, West Ham. I thought they were done. So he's been working damn hard on that training pitch. And he's found a way of playing. I mean, Somerville's helped.
Yeah.
He's playing the best football of his career. He looks sharp. He's going past people. He's scoring goals. Obviously, Bowen's a decent player. The lad they brought in, the striker, Tati, he looks good as well. He looks like he can lead the line. So they've done things right, but still a mountain to climb, because other teams around them are fighting for their life. Forest have got good players as well. So it's not a guarantee, but they do look like they'll give themselves a hell of a good chance. And going off my eyes and what I've seen from the other teams fighting, I'd have West Ham staying up.
So, Simon, next, Bournemouth at home, Liverpool away, Fulham away. Yeah. Can you see them picking up points in the coming games? Because they've got to.
Well, I mean, when you saw West Ham get beat at home by Nottingham Forest at the beginning of the year, you felt to yourself, this is a side that's gone. And we obviously had the agent friend of yours, or David Sullivan's, texting in saying that Nuno Espirito Santo wasn't the guy to get him out of trouble, and he's told David Sullivan this. And on the back of a win against QPR, all of a sudden West Ham seemed to get themselves galvanised. They were unlucky against Chelsea. I mean, now they managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory against Chelsea after being 2-0 up. And that would have been, I think, if you'd have asked West Ham, would you take a point against an informed Man United before the game all day, they would have taken a point. The fact is that they were 1-0 up and obviously conceded a goal in the 96th minute is a disappointment from them, but it's a bloody good point. Now they go on to other games. Bournemouth have regained their poise. Yeah. Bournemouth are back now amongst where they were at the beginning of the season.
But you'll get chances against them.
And you'll get chances against them. Do I think they're out of the woods? Not by a long way. They've got Liverpool after that. They've got Fulham, which is always a difficult game, even though I thought Fulham, when I saw them play at Christmas, or just before Christmas against Palace, were a poor side. They've got themselves together. They've got Man City. They've got Aston Villa. They've got a group of games that are coming up. I would still say it's upon them in terms of the likely third spot. And that's me looking at Sean Dyche and thinking that Sean Dyche has the wherewithal and the know-how to get Nottingham Forest out of this particular predicament. They've got a game against Wolves coming up, tonight, I suspect, isn't it? The game against Wolves. If they beat Wolves, they'll be, again, 6 points clear of West Ham. And again, it's still, or 3 points clear. So, yeah, 5 points clear. They'll still be in a situation where they've got a lot to do, West Ham. But what they've given themselves is a hell of a chance, because the amount of points they've picked up in the last 4 or 5 games has been completely against what people would have thought they'd done. You've got all the credit to the manager.
Thomas Suchek had given them a lead on the 50th minute, and it looked like they were going to get all 3 points. Sesko made the difference for United, and they left with a point apiece. But thereafter, Nuno Espirito Santo was still upbeat.
Yeah, we've been able to react, to bounce back from these disappointed moments that we've been having through the season, and the boys always been able to react and to compete. There's no other way. We have to keep on going. Today, I think we compete well and show the way. Our standards are high. We have to keep them.
I wonder, Danny, tonight, as Simon said, Nottingham Forest host Wolves. It's a TalkSport 2 exclusive. Could Marinakis, the owner of Forest, could his decision-making inadvertently relegate Forest, sacking Nuno, who ends up at relegation rivals West Ham, appointing Postecoglou to sack him 39 days later, before landing at Sean Dyche? I mean, you could say much of this season could be down to self-sabotage.
Possibly, yeah, that would be fair. You'd think it won't happen because of Dyche's experience and the players they've got, but trying to juggle a European campaign and Premier League survival isn't easy. And I think what Sean Dyche has realised is that although the squad's quite big, he doesn't quite trust a lot of the squad players. He's playing the same team quite a lot in both competitions because he, especially after the Wrexham defeat, he verbalised his discontent around some of the players who he'd brought in who'd been knocking on his door to play. So I don't know. This is a massive one for them tonight to give them some breathing space. If they weren't to beat Wolves, then that changes things a bit. So it's a huge one for them. But yeah, you could. I mean, on the flip side of what you said, I think Marinakis was quite bold in the fact, not bold, but I think he was correct in realising the Ange experiment wasn't going to work. You can't go from one extreme to the other with a team. He wanted them to be more attacking and front foot.
But he is Jim's point is right. He's the architect of the downfall. The idea that Nuno Espirito Santo did a wonderful job at Forest last year. And we know that Forest were operating at such a high level with players, week in, week out, putting in 9.9 performances. And it was unsustainable. Chris Wood's never had a season like that. Will never have another season like that again. Everything he hit went in the back of the net. And so we saw that there were issues there with Nottingham Forest that they probably needed to build a stronger squad. The fact he fell out on Nuno Espirito Santo, the fact that the allegations were that he was out there looking at managers that might play a different brand of football, I think is destructive. And so Nuno Espirito Santo set the hair running by talking about his own and got himself sacked. But the architect of that was the owner creating division with his manager.
But wasn't it? Couldn't it have been a case that he started looking at the managers when Nuno started questioning? Because you've always been sat here and you criticise managers for starting to open the mouth, start talking about the hierarchy like they own the place.
I understand the timeline was that the owner
the other way around
was looking at other managers prior to the manager flapping his gums.
Okay.
And so the manager then flapped his gums because he had nothing left to lose. He was being undermined left, right and centre.
Yeah.
And so he got himself booted out the door. Then the owner makes a decision with Postecoglou and everyone scratched their head and went, well, how's that going to work? You've got a side that plays a completely different way to the way Postecoglou plays. It's going to be a disaster. And so it was a disaster. So he's had to go back. He's gone back down the food chain with respect to Sean, to a less progressive manager in terms of the way that he wants to play, because apparently he wanted a style of football that plays in a certain way. He's gone back round the houses and gone back to a more pragmatic manager in Sean Dyche because he's in a desperate situation. So it's on the owner.
Can you
imagine? But all the success for the football club is on the owner too. So all the fact that Nottingham Forest were dragged out of 23 years of slumber by this owner and put in the Premier League is on him. So he's entitled to get it wrong as well.
Simon, can you imagine if Forest go down and West Ham stay up and the finger pointing that will go on regards Marinakis?
You've still got Leeds and Tottenham in this as well.
Yeah, I think
but Leeds 2 down.
Leeds are up and away now. They're a different side.
Turned it around last night.
Do you know what? I'm a big fan of Leeds and I hope they do stay up. And they are playing some really good football. But they've won one of their last 6 games.
They keep on picking up points, though.
No, they do. And I think
they'll be draws, but
they might be fine.
They'll draw their way to safety.
I'm just saying that they're playing really well and still not winning that many games. So if their form drops off a little bit, you'd think if they're playing that well.
Their confidence must be there because they keep on. Look at the sides they've taken points off. Big sides. Okay, they got battered by Arsenal the other day.
Yeah, but there's no shame in that.
They battered Palace at Christmas. Over Christmas, they're getting good points, solid points. So they'll draw their way to safety.
Maybe, yeah.
But you look at Forest and you say, Marinakis will cop for it. But this is the same. The only reason this football club is in the Premier League is
true.
True. There.
I agree. It is Jim White, Simon Jordan, and Danny Murphy, and we are live on TalkSport Wednesday morning, Wednesday, February the 11th. And in the last few moments, it was announced that Thomas Frank has been sacked by Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham Hotspur, who, of course, only last night lost by 2-1 at home to Newcastle United. Tottenham have won just 2 of their 13 home games this season. No league wins in 2026. It was a run of 2 wins in 17 in the league. Spurs 16th, 5 points clear of the relegation zone. And in the last few moments, Tottenham Hotspur, the hierarchy, pulled the trigger. Thomas Frank, once of Brentford, more recently of Tottenham Hotspur, has been sacked by the Spurs hierarchy. Simon, sitting to my left, good morning to you.
Morning.
Thomas Frank gone. Is this much of a shock?
Not really. I mean, I said to you 2-3 months ago, I felt that, or certainly 2 months ago, that he was in a situation where he didn't have many allies. And unless he really changed the direction of travel, he wasn't going to be given much support, because the people that are now incumbent in situ at Spurs weren't the people that employed him. I watched the game last night. I looked at Spurs in the first half and I thought they seemed to be devoid of any identity. And it began to look to me, even more so than people that Tottenham fans may have already concluded themselves, and they probably have, this job seems to be bigger than Thomas. And the question is why? The question is what has manifested itself that a manager that's clearly capable of managing players and producing a side is not capable of getting an outcome in the English Premier League with a side like Tottenham Hotspur that he's capable of producing in the Champions League? There's a whole raft of questions that Tottenham internally have got to ask themselves. But those that wanted Thomas Frank out will be pleased, I suspect. And the next solution will be, what do you do with this group of players? What do you do with Romero's of the world that seem to have been given a license to run riot in how they operate, what they say and what they put out on the field? And all of these things are still going to have to be addressed. It'd be fascinating to see where Tottenham turn next.
Yeah, Spurs fans only last night booing Thomas Frank's name before kick-off at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Well, now those Tottenham fans who wanted him out have got their way, because Tottenham have sacked Thomas Frank. Former Liverpool, former Spurs midfielder Danny Murphy in our midst. Danny, good morning. What's your reaction to this?
Yeah, it became untenable, didn't it? It was inevitable after last night. I think he's done well getting as long as he has, really, because their home form's been disastrous. And the big problem you've got is when a manager's under that much pressure, it translates to the players, and the players haven't been capable of being able to play free, be the odd half here and there or the odd Champions League game where they've done okay, but the pressure has transferred to the players. And by relieving that pressure, what they'll be hoping is the fans then are back on board with whoever they give the job to, whether it be temporarily, whatever, and then the players can play a bit more free. And I think there's some logic in it. I do feel for him, he's had a hell of a lot of injuries and stuff, but ultimately the performances have not been good enough. System changes, personnel changes. I think Simon's right. It's hard to see a particular identity on what they're trying to do. And ultimately, confidence has gone. The players look bereft of... Is that the word?
Bereft.
Yes, bereft will do, Danny.
Nearly.
Yeah.
Of confidence. So I felt that it was inevitable after last night. It couldn't carry on.
Well, Thomas Frank averaged 1.12 points per game as Tottenham boss in the Premier League, the lowest rate of any Spurs manager. And many people thought that this can't go on, it's unsustainable. Well, now the time has come, and in the last few moments, Thomas Frank has been sacked by Tottenham's Hotspur. Now, speaking to TNT last night, even though they lost another game, this one at home to Newcastle, Thomas Frank was adamant, no, I've still got the full support of the board.
I think I understand the frustration. I also understand it's the easiest thing is to point at me. That's fair. That's part of the job. Unfortunately, I also know one thing: I'll work day and night very hard to do everything I can to turn it around. But also, it's never only one person. I also think it's fair to say that this is a situation we've been in also last year. So there's something we need to get through and improve, and I'm not in doubt that I'm part of that.
Obviously, there's 12 days now until the next game, the North London derby. Have you spoken at all to the hierarchy at the club? Are you confident that you'll be in your position? Have you any worries about your job at Spurs?
No, I spoke to them yesterday, so no.
And results, performances like tonight, the reaction from the supporters, do you think that will have any bearing on them changing their opinion between now and the Arsenal game?
No.
So Thomas Frank last night saying no. Life carries on as usual, but no, it hasn't, because he's been sacked in the last few moments. My colleague here at TalkSport, Alex Crook, can give us more on this. Alex, good morning. What else do you know?
Good morning. Never a dull moment, is there, when it comes to Tottenham? I don't think this news is a huge surprise. I think I spoke to you guys several weeks ago before Tottenham picked up that win against Dortmund in the Champions League that ultimately earned Thomas Frank a stay of execution, albeit against 10 men. And I said then, it feels to me a question of when and not if Tottenham sacked Thomas Frank. He clearly lost the support of the board, of the fans, a long time ago. I think he lost the support from within his own dressing room as well. I'll go back to the end of October, start of November. There was that very uncomfortable scene, wasn't there, between Thomas Frank and two of his senior players, Mickey van der Ven and Jed Spence, basically refusing his handshake at the end of a game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. That told me that the players weren't buying into whatever he was trying to do. 7 wins from 26 Premier League games. You're now talking about Tottenham, one of the mainstays of the Premier League era, one of only 6 teams never to have been relegated from the Premier League, looking over their shoulders towards relegation. He couldn't survive. The big question is, what happens next? Will it be an interim manager, a Ryan Mason type, until the end of the season, when, like Manchester United, maybe there'll be a bigger pool for Tottenham to choose from? Maybe Mauricio Pochettino, who the fans were singing for last night, would be open to a return then? Or do they realise they're in a real fight for survival and make a permanent appointment now? I don't think it's necessarily a coincidence that Roberto De Zerbi has left Marseille overnight. He was someone that Spurs were keen to appoint before bringing in even Ange Postecoglou. At the time, I'm told he wasn't necessarily up for working with Daniel Levy and Fabio Paratici, the former sporting director. Both of those are no longer part of the day-to-day running of the football club. And I'm told De Zerbi would potentially be more open to taking the Tottenham job. So certainly that is going to be one to check. I feel for Thomas Frank because I think he's been let down by a group of players who finished 17th last season. I think he's been let down by poor recruitment, both in the summer and in this January transfer window as well, when Tottenham clearly didn't do enough to strengthen the squad. And I feel that he's been given false promises. The reason he was so bullish last night, even in defeat, as I understand it, was that the sporting director, Johan Lange, and the chief executive had assured Thomas Frank he still had their backing. He was safe. Well, clearly he wasn't, and it's the decision that has been made by the owners, by the Lewis family, by ENIC, that ultimately has decided to call an end to what has been a really disappointing tenure for, I think, a good manager and a good guy.
Simon sitting alongside me, Alex. Do you read into that, what Alex is suggesting, maybe a sequence of broken promises, and it's all come down to this, Simon?
Well, I don't know about broken promises. I mean, ultimately, you've got 2 guys that have inhabited roles that I believe are not number ones in terms of running businesses or running, being directors of football. Paratici was a number 1. Daniel Levy was a number 1. Whether these guys had the power, you've seen the Lewis family, how they act. They took Daniel Levy out with impunity. They'll take out a manager without a blink. I said to you 2 months ago that he doesn't have any allies or support there, and so I fear that he won't be given the kind of backing and support that he might need. He hasn't done enough himself, so he's, there has to be lots of questions about what Thomas Frank's contribution to the overall equation is. I don't go with the fact that Jed Spence is not a senior player, so his attitude towards Thomas Frank walking off the pitch is not one of the senior players of a little runt that's just established himself in the first team and should have had a bit more respect, quite frankly, towards his manager. But this ridiculous notion of managers going on the field and shaking players' hands after a game is ridiculous anyway. I think there's a variety of things. That, De Zerbi, well, have some fun with him. The fact that he doesn't want to work for Daniel Levy or doesn't want to work for Paratici, but will work for this group, don't have the qualifications or any of the attributes that I think that will make Tottenham into the thing that they said that they want to make, but have been running it behind the scenes for 25 years. We'll see. Yeah, but De Zerbi is a decent coach.
But maybe De Zerbi is what they need. Somebody that's going to push the ownership as far as he can possibly push them.
There's pushing and there's being destructive. I mean, his attitude towards Brighton at the end of his departure, I thought was appalling. I think there's one person you don't muck about with and question the integrity of is Tony Bloom. And he decided to do that because he had a little tantrum because he didn't get what he wanted.
Yeah, but he did what all managers do when they get some success, is and
that's true too.
They become
not all managers, immature managers.
They start believing their own hype. Yeah. I think De Zerbi might be a problem, right now, they've just got to get someone in who keeps them in the league.
Well, I mean,
don't think long term.
What we should look at, Dan, is 11 days until the next game. At home, to Arsenal.
We'll write that one off.
Well, they're the North London derby, aren't they?
What did they do in that 11 days, though, Simon? Do they put an interim in, and maybe an interim after the interim, or do they get the man they want and stick him in?
Go get the guy from West Brom that nearly puts West Brom in a relegation zone. That'll be a good solution. I mean, look, the fact of the matter,
Ryan Mason.
Yeah, come on. I mean, if we really are talking about just spirit, and ultimately it's only spirit that maintains the circumstances inside the dressing room. If the only reason that the Spurs players aren't performing is because they're not very happy right now, then ultimately, yes, go and get a court jester in. Get anybody in that makes them happy.
No, but hang on, Simon, they need to get somebody in to stop them from being relegated.
Yeah, and there's loads of good coaches.
And there's loads of good coaches.
I'd be going experienced personally. Someone senior, someone experienced. There's guys out there who won't.
Like whom?
Well, I'd have to think about it.
Loads of good people, Danny. See, when it boils down to it,
well,
the responsibility is huge. Stop them from being relegated.
Yeah, that's the job right now.
Yeah.
Not thinking about the 4-year project or taking Tottenham into some new era. Like, keep them in the league, and they've got the players are good enough. By the way,
they've got enough talent in there, and despite the fact there's been a re-emergence of West Ham, I still think that West Ham, Burnley and Wolves are gone. So the one spot that's left is West Ham or Nottingham Forest or even Spurs or whoever else we think is in the equation. I think Spurs will get themselves together and it will disappear into the ether about the challenges about relegation. But it makes great headlines right now because they are right in the middle of it, right amongst it, and they've now fired their manager. Who they bring in? Someone that's sensible, I would imagine. Someone that's going to hold order. They don't have to race to do it. They're going to get pumped by Arsenal, whoever they bring in. They can bring in Klopp if they want to. They're still going to get pumped by Arsenal.
Surely that can't be
maybe
the
not
attitude,
pumped,
though,
but they,
it's a North
no,
London
they need to
derby.
show some fight and some spirit. One of the players.
I'm sure they will, but they're going to get beaten by Arsenal because Arsenal are a better side.
What's fascinating is that with managers and players, you never know till they go to a bigger club and are put under pressure if they can perform. And Thomas Frank has obviously wilted under the pressure. He's struggling. And the players look like they're not sure what they're doing.
I don't know what you two...
Somebody needs to come in.
I don't know what your reaction will be to this. A lot of messages coming in, 81089. Many people saying, get Big Sam in. Get Sam Allardyce in.
Well, I was thinking...
Other people are saying, get Harry Redknapp in. Are you thinking along those lines,
Yeah,
Danny?
I would, yeah.
What, in the next 11 days, get somebody like that in?
Absolutely.
Arsenal next. And
Keep
try
it
and
simple.
stop.
Simple
Oh,
message.
they'll love Big Sam in at Tottenham, won't they? Just like West Ham loved him at West Ham.
But what I'm saying is...
They'll love it. They'll be behind Big Sam.
What about Harry?
They'll be enthralled. He's had his day. He's had his time. You know, these things...
They said that about Martin O'Neill.
Exactly.
Sure. Okay. Well, then, different circumstances. Different set of
Moyes is
scenarios.
still going.
In a two-horse league. Okay,
Yeah.
a bit
Look what
different,
Moyes
isn't
is
it?
doing at
Yeah.
Everton.
Yeah.
I just think some safe hands right now who knows how to manage players and can put out a few fires and just tell. It's a difficult one because whatever you do, whoever you bring in, there is a risk. There's a risk that Tottenham could get relegated.
Do you think Harry Redknapp would want to do this?
Yes.
Do you?
I think he'd bite their hand off.
Looking at the group of players that he's got in front of him and looking at the fact that he has in past been actually quite objective about the fact that the players are letting the management down. So he's going to inherit that group of miscreants that have done very little to support their managers in the past.
I think most managers who have got the experience of Harry or Sam or people like that, they always believe they can do a better job than the one before. So the ego...
I don't dispute that, but ultimately it lands in their lap. And then they're responsible for it.
Well, the short and the tall of it is this. Thomas Frank has been sacked in the last few moments by Tottenham. And when you look at the statistics, is it easy or difficult to see why? Not really. No league wins in 2026. Tottenham have won just 2 of 13 home games this season. They're 16th, 5 points clear of the relegation zone. And next up is Arsenal. Would you expect them to get anything out of that? Not really. So they're in a dogfight. It's a relegation scrap. It's as simple as that. But who should be next for them? And last night at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, where Tottenham lost by 2-1 to Newcastle, they were chanting once again, sacked in the morning, at their own manager. Well, those who are chanting that, you've got your way. You want to join us this morning? 03717 22 3344. Tottenham Hotspur told us results and performances have led the board to conclude that a change at this point in the season is necessary. And they went on to tell us that the club had taken the decision to make change in the men's head coach position. Thomas Frank will leave today. Maybe he hasn't left just yet, but he's gone. It's over for Thomas Frank at Tottenham Hotspur. What next? De Zerbi heads to the list of those who the bookmakers tell us are favourites to take over at the football club. Roberto De Zerbi, once of Brighton, more recently of Olympique Marseille, and he's left the French club and could well be heading to Tottenham Hotspur. We shall see. Going to try on a quick fire basis get through one or two calls before we hit 11 o'clock. David, big Spurs fan. David, what's your reaction to the news?
Yeah, hi, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning,
David.
It's very, very... Hello there. I've been coming since the 70s. I've never thought... I so hope we get relegated. I so hope we go down. It would do the club the world of good, believe it or not. They need all the paping over the cracks that's been happening. If they was to survive by 1 or 2 points, it'd be the same old, same old. There's not one player apart from Mickey in that side that's got any substance to them. Thomas Frank, the job was too big for him. There was no way, even you can see what Keith Andrews is doing at Brentford, so he never done so wonderful at Brentford anyway. The job was too big for him, and it's embarrassing. It's a terrible watch. It's the dearest season ticket in the Premier League. It's just the owners, every year, same. It's just incredibly embarrassing. And to think we're relying on West Ham, I really hope we get... I've looked at the fixtures. We've got to go to Liverpool. We've got to go to Chelsea. We're going to Fulham. Arsenal, the game against Arsenal at home. I can't see. The problem is, it's not just the management and the owners.
Yeah.
That side is not good enough. Not good enough.
So before you leave us, David, do you hope that Tottenham lose in 11 days to Arsenal?
Yes, I hope we lose every... I want us to go down. Simple as that.
All right.
Because it will be the only thing that will actually get something done properly. And what will, fingers crossed, then happen, things will change, come up straight away, and actually you can start moving forward. By papering over the cracks and doing what's going on year in and year out, we've got 1 point less than with Ange last year, who was also useless.
Is there not a concern? David, is there not a concern if you go down that it might not just be as simple as bouncing back?
Exactly, Danny.
And then you're in the doldrums.
I understand what you're saying there, Dan. I understand what you're saying. I'd like to think that with everything properly, a lot of sides who go down, a lot of them, I'd like to think that we would come up.
Yeah.
I'm prepared to take that risk.
Yeah.
Because what you can't have is week in and week out this.
David, thanks for the call. Lee, big Tottenham fan. Lee, he's had to cope with 11 injuries at the moment, mate. What do you think?
It's through to me now, is it?
Yes, that's you, Lee.
Oh, hello. Yeah.
Are you Lee?
Yeah.
Lee?
Yeah, the thing is, everyone's been kind of really bigging up about the injuries and things like that. I understand it, but we are missing some really creative players. But for me, there's no structure, there's no system. Like, I watch us play football, and I honestly couldn't tell you what type of football we're trying to play. We're not counter-attacking, we're not high press, we're not possession-based. There's nothing.
Do you think some of that though is down to the fact he's been with the different injuries coming at different stages? He's having to mess around with formations and tweak it game to game, trying to find a solution to get results. So therefore that you don't see an identity because of that. I agree with you, by the way. I still think you should have an identity. Simon and I was talking about this off air. I've played under managers, irrelevant of injuries, you still play the same way. But I think he's just so desperately trying to get results that he's actually moving away from probably his belief of how he wanted to play.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's certainly been hard in the second half of the season, but I mean, we started okay this year. But again, except for that Man City game where we looked unbelievable, we still didn't look like a great footballing team in some of the other games.
No, you didn't. No.
And we had, most of these players available. Obviously, lost Maddison and things like that, and they are a creative spark and they are important, especially the way we played. But yeah, I feel like a lot of some of the other callers said, I think maybe Frank was out of his depth for this one.
Okay, Lee, listen, thanks for the call. We're going to take, we'll take a sharp intake of breath because it's Matt. I wonder if it's the Matt that we know and love. Matt, good morning.
Morning, guys. Yeah, to be honest with you, Jim, I've heard your callers in today, and majority of them have been talking sense. The bottom line is it's the owners. Thomas Frank, we know he's out of his depth. That's besides all that. They've created this mess, and it hasn't been overnight. It was with that other parasite. It's just been ongoing and ongoing and ongoing. And you pointed out, that's a disgraceful comment you made about the stadium, and he's won a European trophy. That is an absolute disgrace to know where Tottenham Hotspur have been heading.
Those are two statements of fact, Matt.
No, forget your facts, mate. Forget your facts. It's a disgraceful comment to say about a stadium when Tottenham Hotspur went through a transfer season, 2 transfer windows without buying anything, and he was playing the same players, and he got to a Champions League final. And you're talking to me about a stadium, and you're talking to me about winning a European trophy that really nobody wanted to win. And I want to talk to Danny Murphy, where Danny turned around and said, with this squad, Tottenham should be at least in the top half of the league. And Simon said that.
Yes.
Do you know what?
I heard them, Matt. I heard them.
Mate, that's another disgraceful comment. Because you know what? Let me tell you. Danny Murphy knows more than anybody. You finish where you deserve to finish. Tottenham Hotspur finished 17th last year, not because of any other reason, but should we blame injuries? No, it's not injuries. Those players are clearly not good enough. That's why they finished 17th. Thomas Frank come in, started giving it all the large about, they finished 17th and blah, blah, and now Tottenham are 16th, a point less. What does that tell you? Does that tell you, Tottenham should be in the top half? That tells you we've got poor footballers at the football club. And I'm going to read you this. I'm going to read you that, and I want Danny, because you're an ex-pro, mate. I'm going to read you this 11. Vicario, please tell me he's going to get in the top half. Is he better than Pope that played last night?
No, I'm with you on Vicario. I'm with you 100%.
No, don't talk. Not just him. What about Dragoulson that we got sold the story? The fans got sold the story. Oh, but he wanted to go to Bayern Munich. I'm not stupid, mate. We've got Jed Spence playing left back. Mate, if you need to plaster your wall in your flat, you need to plaster. If you don't plaster it, it's going to crumble. And you leave it and you leave it and leave it, and you know what? The whole thing falls apart.
Matt, the neighbours are complaining, mate. The neighbours are complaining.
Mate, we need a left back. We've got Jed Spence, right-footed player, playing left back for the last 2 seasons. We got Conor Gallagher. That's a cheap option because you know what? He ain't going to go anywhere else, and he wants to get in England.
35 million.
We've got Bissouma, who's blowing on balloons, playing for us. We've got Sarr. We got Solanke. Oh my God, Solanke! People telling me that he's a good player. Danny, am I getting fooled on this, mate?
Well, Matt, sit down. If you're in your living room, sit down, and Danny will address those points.
He's picking out some players where he's got some justification in his arguments for some of them. But if you look around the squad generally, my point is simple, is that under different management and a different coach this season, even with that group, even though recruitment hasn't been brilliant, I still think when you look at some of the other squads and sitting in the middle of the table, you'd take Tottenham's ahead of them.
Danny, I'll tell you what. I'll have a £500 bet with you to charity. We'll put the money to charity of your choice and my choice, and I'll bet you any money this club, with these individuals, will not finish, even with a new manager, will not even finish 14th because they're not good enough. Danny, you're fooling the public out there, mate, with your comments. It's not a reality. The realities are these individuals are poor. They're not good enough. You've got goalkeeper, you've got centre-halves, you've got left backs, you've got right backs, you've got midfielders. They're constantly causing mistakes that's costing goals. That is not Thomas Frank.
Okay.
You've got Van der Ven and Romero, who've been talked about as the best centre-half pairing in Europe 6 months ago.
Yeah,
correct. But do you remember when last year they were saying, but when these two aren't playing in the team, Tottenham don't win? When they played the majority of this season, mate. And what's happened? Should we blame Thomas Frank? It doesn't matter who you bring in. It won't change because you still got individuals that make mistakes, Danny. Come on, mate.
They make mistakes.
Matt, I'm almost hesitant to ask it, but are you going to get relegated, do you think?
Well, do you know what? When I look at the way we are, and I had this conversation with Simon Jordan the other day when he was trying to mock me about beating Borussia Dortmund.
I know, I heard it.
I said to him, we will not win. Do you know what? Borussia Dortmund turned up, and you know what? They're in the playoffs, so they're not going to give it all because they had an important league game on Saturday. That's how it works. But Tottenham Hotspur will not gain no points with these individuals. And do you know what? It's sad to say, this football club will go down. Because when I watch West Ham with Bowen and I see them midfielders fighting for a battle, because you know what? They're actually not great, but you know what? They're good enough to stay up.
Matt, we want to thank you for joining us again this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Matt
Passionate.
kind of starts there, doesn't he? And then finishes
Well,
there.
he's passionate, and that's fine.
He's passionate, and that's fine. Roberto De Zerbi is a man who the bookies tell us is the man that people want to take over from the sacked Thomas Frank. It's 11 o'clock. It's Jim White and Simon Jordan, and we are live on Talk Sport. Yesterday we were touching on it. We were speaking about punditry. What is punditry? Of course, viewers, listeners like some pundits more than others, and that's absolutely fine. Some pundits regarded to be more eligible than others, depending on what they achieved in whatever sport they participated in. Achievement. Well, do I remember years ago anchoring Celtic against Rangers for Scottish football, for Scottish television in the world of Scottish football, and Big Jack Charlton was my studio guest that day. Didn't play for either Celtic or Rangers, of course, Big Jack, but was a great pundit on the day, a great studio guest. Of course, manager of Republic of Ireland, and a World Cup winner at that. But what qualifies a place on a punditry panel? Should gender come into it? How much does your playing CV matter to the event that you're actually covering? Yesterday, we discussed former Lionesses striker Eni Aluko being critical about the choice of pundits used for the Women's Euro 2025 final between England and Spain. This was Eni speaking on the 90s Baby Show.
Last year, at the Women's Lionesses final, I'm sat in the stands. Farrah Williams was sat next to me. Farrah Williams has 170 caps for England. I think something ridiculous. Like, I think she's the most cap player. The two broadcasters that had the right, on BBC, you've got, I think it was Ellen White, Steph Horton, Nedum Onuora. No offence to Nedum Onuora, nothing against him. I don't know whether he played for England or not. Let's go over to ITV. I'm in the stands with 105 caps. So you've got two women. Between us, we've got 290 caps, something ridiculous. You turn over to ITV, and it's Ian Wright, Emma Hayes, and Kaz Carney. Out of 6 punditry spots, 2 have gone to men. Yeah? Meanwhile, you've got 290, whatever it is, I got sitting in the stands.
So that was Eni speaking on that particular podcast. And then when Simon and I came off air yesterday, Eni got in touch with me, reaching out to say, look, I'll join you and Simon tomorrow morning. And she's done just that. Eni, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good to see you and great to have you on the show. There has been a lot debated around your comments. I was looking at, God forbid, Twitter last night. Do you still stand by all of your original observations that you were discussing there?
Yeah, look, I think it's more about clarifying and saying, look, I think 270 odd caps represents experience, right? On the pitch, represents how many times you've played in the Euros, how many times you've played at a World Cup, represents the insight that you're able to bring to the game that helps the audience go, right, okay, she scored in whatever that experience might be. So what I wasn't saying was 270 caps justifies as an automatic pick. Of course, it goes without saying. You have to have the skill set as well, to be a pundit, of course. So, and me and Farrah have that skill set. We're both experienced pundits. The point I was trying to make is in women's football, my preference and my opinion is that where there's a choice, I want to see that level of experience on the main panel for women's football. That's not at the exclusion of, obviously I mentioned Nedum, obviously I mentioned Ian Wright. That's not at the exclusion of them. I'm saying, can we have a situation where the women are the main faces of women's sport and then the men play more of a supporting role? What does that look like? That might be Ian Wright doing pitch side hits 10 minutes before the game. It gives a bit of colour, a bit of context, goes to the main studio and bang, you've got the faces of the game, whoever the 3 female pundits are, right? That is a tried and tested proof of concept, really, in the men's game, right? So the premium opportunities in the men's game, when I think about men's finals, I've never done one because there's so many, big guys that I think should be ahead of me. But in the sort of exceptional cases, got someone like Karen Carney who's brilliant. Before the game, she'll do a final. She'll do a 10-minute hit before the game with Laura Woods, and it gives it a bit of colour, context. It's a supporting role. Goes to the main studio, and then bang, you've got Roy Keane, Ian Wright, Gary Neville.
I see where you're going with it.
So I'm not saying
right.
It's at the expense of anyone. What I'm saying is, can we start to prioritize the sort of big positions for women, and have sort of the men support that?
Well, you were part of ITV's punditry team for Euro 2025, but you didn't work on an England game and you weren't involved in the final.
Right.
Why? Why do you think that was?
I think that's just their choice, right? I think they wanted to go with other pundits that they felt were better for the final.
But you would have wished to be have been involved in any. You wanted that gig, obviously.
Yeah, of course. But I think by the time I worked on the Women's Euros last year, we'd already had a conversation that, I wouldn't be working with ITV as much. And so there was already a conversation about, my role changing slightly. I was disappointed, but the reason was never that, you're not good enough to do a final. The reason actually that was given to me was that, we're cutting budgets and, we're reducing from 3 pundits to 2, and, your contract is not the priority. Ian Wright's is the priority. That was the reason given to me. So to clarify for everybody who sort of want to make a conclusion that I'm just not good enough, it's just not the case. In the 11 years I've been working as a professional pundit, I've never, ever had, a top producer, a director of TV, and anyone say, you're just not good enough, you're struggling, you can't put your sentences together. Quite the opposite. I'm the geek that goes to the producer and goes to the stats guy and goes, how can I improve? What can I do better?
Yeah.
And I've got text messages and emails and all sorts of support saying you were brilliant today. Great point today. That was this, that could be better, but this.
Where are you going with what Annie's saying, Simon? Because I understand what you're saying, Annie. In a high-profile game, correct me if I'm wrong, Annie's saying, well, why not have Wright pitch side or Anua pitch side, the men pitch side, and Annie alongside Karen Carney in studio as a high-profile
not just
pundit.
Me, any
or
three
not
women.
Just you.
I want to make that clear because I don't have any skin in the game.
The
right?
2 high-profile women.
Yeah.
In studio as pundits for that game.
I don't think that's particularly controversial. I think women's sport should be patronised and should be championed through women, specifically women's football. I also think the same applies in men's sport. I think that the women's expertise, I think there's nothing wrong with women hosts. It depends what you look for from a pundit. I think we live in a society now where there's far too many people that don't have the experience, don't have the substance, don't have the gravitas, don't know what they're talking about, masquerading as experts. And with due respect to women's involvement in men's football, I think they have zero expertise in men's football. I think they can talk about tactics, but the 2 games are vastly different. The speed, the scale, the size, the pressure, the expectation, the physicality, they are vastly different games.
But you were quite outspoken about Annie yesterday.
In conjunction
and you were questioning Annie's quality as a pundit.
Because in my view, for what my view is worth, I listened to the observations. I've encountered Annie in short form and long form. We've had a conversation about something to do with the commerciality of football, which I thought Annie talked with no commercial sense. And that's my opinion. She probably disagrees. I've seen her in long form, in podcasts, talking about various things, specifically with Andrew Gold, where she's ideologically aligned with a perspective that overrepresentation is based upon merit and underrepresentation is based upon structural racism, and I find that a difficult circle to square. As far as expertise is concerned, when I listen to her as a pundit and the times that I've listened to her, I don't think that she's particularly enlightening or illuminating or engaging or charismatic, or sometimes comes across particularly likeable. But that's my view. And some people will have the same view about me. And my view of punditry is when I listen to a pundit, whoever that pundit might be, whatever they may be, whether it's male, female, black, white, yellow, green, it's do I learn something from them? Do they engage me? Do I find them interesting and entertaining? And do they merit my attention? And that's my response to
Annie,
the
what
reasons
would you
why
say
I
to
was
that?
saying the
Yeah,
things I
listen,
said.
He's sitting right beside you.
Yeah, you know, it's an opinion, isn't it? Which we're all entitled to. I put value on opinions, right? You have to, because there's, you know,
Depends where they come from, right?
everybody has them, right? So I'm not going to listen to a mob on X who've never, ever put themselves in any situation to do anything close to what I've done in my career. I listen to the professionals, right? I listen to the people who've hired me for the last 11 years around the world, the biggest broadcasters in the world. By default, if I'm working with the people who are considered the brilliant broadcasters, then if I'm in the same team as them, next to them, then by default, I'm considered also a brilliant broadcaster. So I take everything you're saying, but the reality is I've been good enough for 11 years, right? And as I said, I'm the person that will go and seek out feedback for someone to go, I think you're struggling. It's never happened.
See, the language that you use, Annie, is, to me, it's steeped in a sense of entitlement. I mean, the sheer weight of the entitlement that you seem to believe that you have would resink the Titanic. I think you've been quite fortuitous. I think because of initiatives like DEI, they've allowed people to be put into positions in the men's game that I don't think they've merited. And now that sort of seeds an attitude that you become a stalwart in the women's game. And I listened to your observations about Ian, and Ian Wright is in the Ian Wright business, has always been. I've known Ian for 25 years, and I have my own views on him. Ian is not in any shape or form obligated to provide any support structure for you or to give you a sense of entitlement. And your position now as a broadcaster will be determined by the value of you. And the fact that people potentially aren't booking you now should give you pause to thought about why they might not be.
Hold on. The reason people aren't booking me is because I've taken myself out the firing line. My last conversation with ITV was, I'm taking a break from broadcasting.
So you weren't disappointed then, because that's what you just said a minute ago. You were disappointed.
Disappointed about what?
You just said that the conversation with ITV, you left that conversation and you were disappointed. So I'm assuming that the conversation about you not being a mainstay broadcaster with them was in part put forward to them by them.
So there's two conversations with ITV. So there's the conversation after the men's Euros, which was the end of my contract. I asked about, are we going to renew as is normal? And they said, no, we're sort of cutting budgets and we're prioritising Ian Wright and Karen Carney.
Mm-hmm.
That was a conversation back in the summer of 2024. I was off screen for 9 months. We agreed that I would then do the Euros. That was after the comments about Ian Wright. We had a conversation. And at that point, I'd already decided I'm taking a break from this environment. This is no longer something that I think is serving
So what's
me.
all this about then?
But along the way, though, Annie, it's fair to say you pointed your guns at Ian Wright, didn't you?
Well, I think that's
because
that's the way,
I will just quote something in here. I fully expected Ian to use his influence to keep me in the game. I've seen him do it with others. He did it with Lineker at the BBC. We'll opt out for a second, have a very quick break, and back with Annie in a second. Annie, of course, did play the game. Is the 10th most capped England player. 105 caps.
Yeah.
Is that right, Annie?
Yeah.
105 caps. Yesterday, somebody you know well, and I know very well, so does Simon, broadcaster Laura Woods, who presents ITV's coverage of the Lionesses, responded to your claims, Annie, on social media. And she said, caps don't win automatic work, and they don't make a brilliant pundit either. The way you communicate, articulate yourself, do your research, inform your audience how likeable you are, and the chemistry you have with your panel are what makes a brilliant pundit. Is Laura right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I respect Laura's opinion and always have done. I think it's helpful for her to obviously outline a lot of the attributes that go into what you consider a brilliant pundit. Caps is obviously part of that, as I explained. Caps is not the decider, but it's an objective way to say this person has enough experience to talk about this specific game. Now, it's interesting because, Laura was actually one of the people that I would consistently go to. We got on like a house on fire, and I'd consistently go to her and say, how do you think it went? What do you think? How did it go? Again, I'm that person, right? Laura consistently, and I had to look at the messages yesterday and think, hold on, I feel a bit gaslit here. Laura consistently said to me, I think you're a brilliant broadcaster. I think you're a brilliant pundit, right? So I think there's a little bit of serving her argument at this point, which I respect. Listen, she's, she doesn't agree, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But, I think there's an insinuation in there that you don't meet the standard. And again, I have to... I've worked too hard for people to just conclude that because you're not seeing me on screen, I'm not good enough. That's not true.
Well, you worked with her for what, 11 years?
Well, no, I'm not sure. Maybe 3, 4
in total.
In total, and listen, she mentioned about the camaraderie in the group. We had loads of that. That's the funnest part for me.
Yeah.
I'm not the person that's difficult to work with behind the scenes. There's lots of, me and Laura got on, everyone gets on, and plays a part and does their job. So the insinuation that you're not there because of all these attributes that you don't meet, I just think.
But when you say you feel you're being gaslit by her, do you feel she's not being genuine on social media?
Well, no, I'm not. I don't want to say that because she has a view, and I agree with her view, and I appreciate her view, and she mentioned about, I think she mentioned about, little boys being, important as well.
Yeah.
Little boys being important for the women's game, and I agree. But when I see little boys coming to the women's game now, they've got the women on their shirts. They don't have men pundits' names on their shirts, right? So. But
when you say you appreciate Laura's view, you still say, Annie, that you feel gaslit by her.
Well, to the extent that to the extent that I feel there's a potential insinuation there that if you're sitting in the stands and not on screen, you don't meet all of these things that make a brilliant broadcaster. But as I said, privately, she's told me many times and reassured me many times that she thinks I'm a brilliant broadcaster, which I will forever appreciate from Laura. Forever appreciate.
Simon earlier on questioned your, maybe to a degree, your sense of entitlement that you seem to have. And you can argue that you don't. But
the only thing I feel
the Ian Wright situation.
Yeah.
You suggested you were more than suggested. You said you were frustrated that Ian Wright didn't, quotes, use his influence to keep you on at ITV. And as a result, you questioned this moniker he has of being an ally. Does he owe you anything, though, Annie?
No, he doesn't.
The bottom line is, do any of us or anyone else in the business
Of course
anything?
He doesn't. Of course he doesn't. But, in a very difficult time in my career where I felt really determined to stay on screen, during a really difficult time, I was going through the lawsuit with Joey Barton, which is well documented. I wanted to lean on somebody to help to keep me in the game, just keep me on screen, right? As I mentioned, ITV had mentioned that there was a sort of, budget restriction. So.
And what did he do?
Ian has always been that person.
What did he not do?
Well, I just want to make clear that my relationship with Ian has always been, he's on the other end of the phone. He'll help you. He's supportive. He's the uncle. He's the ally. That's always been the way I've seen him. So that's why I went to him and his agent for help, right? To see if he could use his influence with ITV to if we could work together for, maybe shared appearances or when he wasn't available, whether he could put me forward. I wanted to work with him. I wanted us both to stay in the game. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, right? And I was gutted about that. You say here that
you hoped what he did for Lineker, in your eyes, he would do for you.
Well, I was probably naive to think that because we had a good relationship, he would do that for me. But that's not saying he has to do that for me. I'm saying I was hoping that he would do that for me. Now, if he didn't do it, right, and that's absolutely fine. But my disappointment came from, I'm not going to be on screen. We couldn't figure it out, right? So I went to him because I felt that he could help me. It didn't work out, right? And then
but you also say, this is what I think black people should do. At the highest levels, we need to strategize. We need to really help each other. We get sidelined very quickly. Why bring colour into it, Annie?
I think that's a really important thing for the black community. There's not a lot of us at the highest levels. There just isn't. That's just a fact.
But if the guy beside you here, Simon, is going to help me in an hour of need,
right?
I'm not caring if Simon is black, white, or whatever.
Well, when I say black people, I mean there is a sense that we have to. For me, there's a sense that we have to sort of figure out how to help each other in high positions that aren't common, right? So it's not necessarily about the color. It's about you know, being part of my community, being part of the culture, understanding the difficulties, understanding the challenges, right? But, you know, for me, allies come in all colours. You know, Gary Neville is an amazing ally. He's been so supportive towards me, you know, so it's not that's not what it's about. I think in that particular moment...
Did Neville help you or try to help you to get back into work?
I'm not sure he could, because, I mean, he doesn't have the type of relationship that Ian has with ITV, but Gary's been very supportive throughout my career. I mean, I remember years ago when I was starting as a sporting director, and I went over to Salford, you know, shadowed Gary for the day. We had a nice tea in the sort of at half time, put me up in his nice hotel in Manchester, always checks in, how you doing, how you feeling. You know, that's kind of what you want from these big male allies.
A colleague.
Yeah, and that's, you know, that's not an entitlement. That's just, you know, for me, if I feel entitled to anything, it's respect. I just want people to respect my opinion. I just want people to respect me as for the work that I've done, and respect me as a broadcaster.
Let's take time out, Eni. 11 o'clock, time is flying, tempus fugit. But after the bulletin, we'll return to our conversation with Eni Aluko, live in TalkSport. Pundits, people who talk about the sport that you're watching. If it's football, pre-match, half-time, full-time, punditry. What is it? Basically, what is it? It's about what viewers and listeners tune into, and they like some pundits more than they like others, and that's fine. And some pundits are more eligible than others, depending maybe on what they achieved in the game. What you achieved can give you more gravitas, and that's understandable in itself. Eni Aluko is in studio with Simon and myself this morning. A one-time pundit at ITV, 105 England caps, and you would think, yes, more than eligible to be a pundit on that particular broadcast channel. But it was time up at ITV for Eni further down the line. And as a result of that, Eni, I think it's fair to say you were frustrated, and we were talking about that going into the 11 o'clock bulletin, that Ian Wright didn't, quote, use his influence to keep you on at ITV, and as a result, you questioned this moniker that he has of being an ally. And you said you were at a meeting with his agent. A month went by. This was after you'd gone from ITV, was it? And I was like, well, what's going on? So I messaged him and I said, did you manage to have a chat with ITV? He was very dismissive. He didn't really want to help me. And I was a bit like, listen, it's not going to work. I fully expected Ian to use his influence to keep me in the game. I've seen him do it with others. He did it with Gary Lineker at the BBC. Simon, you would argue that in this instance, and I'm wondering if you argue in this sense, that Eni here is feeling that there's an over sense of entitlement on Eni's part.
Yes and no. I mean, look, the reasons why we're talking about this is because Eni wants to talk about it. And as I've said, and I don't make no apology for saying it, I think we're giving her more airtime than this subject merits. But here we are where we are, and this is the media today. Controversy and opinions sell. But the fact of the matter is I look at certain things, and my experience of Eni, as I said, is short and long form. I listened to her interview with Andrew Gold. I wasn't hugely impressed with it. I listened to her discussion with me a couple of years ago about the nuances and peculiarities of commercial transactions between major football clubs, and I didn't think that was particularly commercially adroit.
Although everything in that everything I said about that Declan Rice transfer happened.
In what respect?
In the respects that I called it, and I was asked on the day that Manchester City put a bid, and I said I don't think he's going to Manchester City. I think this is going to help Arsenal, and I think Arteta and Pep are probably talking about the bid. There's been 2 bids knocked back by Arsenal. That it's very clear what West Ham want in terms of the 100 million fee, and this bid is going to help Arteta go to the board and say a competitor's coming in. 2 days later, Declan Rice goes for Arsenal. So, in my view, I'm like, I called it. So when you say it's fortuitous, I go, what?
Yeah, I do. I think you suggested that it was a common dialogue between sporting directors in businesses to manipulate their owners. And the conversation, that's what you said. Well, you did. You did actually. Well, okay. Well, we can replay the content. You can have a look at it for yourself and evaluate it. But those are my experiences. And then I look at and we have to take things in sound bites, because that's what we're reading in sound bites. And when you read the sound bites, it looks to me as if there's an expectation of certain outcomes. and not an appreciation of certain opportunities. No one lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever. There'll come a time, sooner rather than later, I suspect, where people will be fed up with listening to my nonsense, and I'll be marginalised. And it won't be because I'm an old man or a white man. It'll be because my content isn't good enough for the current climate that I'm operating in. And that's the reality of life. And I think that the argument, I think she makes good points about women's football. I think that women's football should be led by women. The reasons why it's not, she should take it up with the broadcasters, take it up with the fact that the broadcasters aren't doing enough. It's all well and good these broadcasters sit on their little sandboxes telling everyone what valuable women's football is. They don't put it in the broadcasting deals. They don't pay the women footballers enough money. They don't put enough funding behind the sport. So there's a whole raft of things I agree with her there, but that doesn't then entitle her to be the pundit of choice. That becomes based upon merit.
And do you accept that?
And I would dispute.
I don't think it. I think I'm allowed to be disappointed that I wasn't
absolutely.
chosen,
Absolutely
and I'm
right.
allowed to express that. I don't see that as entitlement because, to your point, for me, good things come to an end. I've moved on. I spend more time outside of the UK now than I do inside the UK, and I've got an abundance of new opportunities. I don't have any skin in the game. I'm not trying to be picked.
I get that, but in this instance, on this topic,
I'm
you've clearly made the decision to put your head above the parapet, Annie. What was the motivation behind you doing that?
Because I'm really, for the last 9 months, after sort of apologising about, the Ian Wright comments that obviously didn't land well. I didn't even bring his name up in that interview.
Why apologising for it, out of curiosity?
Well,
Do you not subscribe to the view that you said? You believe that your relationship with Ian...
I apologise that his name even came up because it wasn't really, wasn't relevant. It wasn't the intention. I think his name came up as an example of a point I was making, but it felt like it became about Ian Wright. And
why do you think, given the fact you had such a good relationship with him, and I do think Ian Wright is in the Ian Wright business and Ian Wright will do what's best for Ian Wright, but why do you think Ian Wright wouldn't accept your apology?
I have no idea. I don't know. Because as far as I'm being honest, as far as I'm concerned, I've always shown him the utmost love and respect. It's like, Uncle Righty.
Do you still speak to him?
I would love to speak to him. I would love to reconcile.
Which means
with
you
him.
haven't spoken to him since.
Which means I haven't spoken to him, and I.
Does he not take your calls?
I just think that based on what I said, I don't think it warrants this sort of and people have weaponized his name against me for the last 9 months, and I'm a bit fed up with it because I'm like, listen, I've done everything I can, privately, publicly, to try and re-establish a relationship without having any skin in the game. I don't need to be picked at this moment in time.
Yeah, but Annie, you were the one that said it.
Of course, but
I fully expected Ian to use his influence to keep me on in the game. I've seen him do it with others. He did it with Lineker at the BBC.
Yes,
you said it. Well, you're still saying it.
Well, I apologise for I think we're talking about two different things. The interview that I did with Women's Hour, where I said, Ian is aware of just how much he's doing in the women's game, and we have to be conscious that the pathway for women isn't blocked. Right? That was the sort of headline comment. That was what I apologised for.
But right? the comment I've just quoted was now revisiting it.
Yeah, that was
9 months on.
That was 9 months before the Women's Hour interview, where I felt that there was an opportunity for me to stay in the game with ITV. But the bottom line is, I want to make it very clear, you will never find a quote or a video of me saying Ian Wright should get out the women's game, because I think people are trying to make this what this is. All I'm trying to suggest is there a way where the main punditry spots, which are often long-term contracts, which are often lucrative contracts, can be prioritised for women, where Ian plays more of a supporting role rather than a main character role?
Why do you think there's such a visceral reaction to some of the things that you say? Do you think there's an agenda against you? Because I noticed some things that you say. You said about and you were very complimentary about me on the show that you did with Andrew Gold, but you also talked about the fact I steered into a sexism side of things and tiered my content towards a base that was sexist in its perspective. You also quoted an article that I wrote in the Daily Mail about must-haves and misrepresented it because it was nothing to do with colour. It was about the prioritisation of particular LGBTQ issues on a 12 o'clock show on a Saturday afternoon rather than anything to do with colour, and you misquoted me. So why do you think that people have this strident reaction to you? Because there is a strident reaction to it. I've seen the reaction. I saw the reaction, and because I read comments and I see things, and it can't all just be that the audience is tilted towards the host and ultimately there's a preordained agenda. Because I saw the reaction to the interview you did with Andrew Gold, and it was almost 99% against
well,
you.
his audience was always going to be against him.
I saw the reaction to the fact you're coming on today. I've seen the reaction from people that have worked with you, that have got opinions on you, that you portray in a certain way. And I'm not going to portray confidence because it's not my gift to do so. But there are reactions to you where people portray you in a very different light to the very calm and measured and reasonable approach that you're operating on now, where you will bring colour into things. You will say to people, and that's a typical reaction I get from a white person.
If I'm bringing,
and that's a very difficult concept for people to be able to process.
If I'm bringing colour into anything, it's because it's relevant, and in the public, in the two high-profile times when I've accused anyone of racism or sexism, a High Court has agreed with me. A parliamentary committee has agreed with me. So, and I've got reams of evidence.
Oh, absolutely.
Of people,
you're talking about Mark Sampson and Joey Barton.
Right, but the point is, I'm not the person.
That's the extreme end of the equation, isn't it?
Right, what is the point?
No, but
Go on,
my
Annie.
point is, that's also replicated online. So there's reams and reams of evidence of people online.
But you did it to me. You told me. No, I don't have a problem with it because it's your opinion. You said to me about me that I'm a sexist.
No,
I don't think I am. I think I have a strident opinion. I have a daughter.
I think you pander to an audience.
Yeah, and that in itself
could
be considered to be something that people I could be robust in my rejection of it. It's your opinion. You're entitled to it, and I like you should do. I only take the value of a people's opinion from someone whose opinion I respect.
Yeah.
Your opinion isn't relevant to me, and my opinion to some extent shouldn't be relevant to you. And if you are strong in the views that you have, I admire you for having the strength of them. But everything that you seem to portray in life seems to be that every disadvantage that you have is because either you're a woman or because you're black, and it's got nothing to do with your contribution to the equation and the way that people perceive you.
I'll always take responsibility if I think I've done something wrong. I'm the first person to apologise if I think, I shouldn't have said that, or that went the wrong way. You can find multiple examples of me apologising, but there is a reality that I do suffer sometimes a disadvantage because people abuse me for my identity. They don't actually focus on, I don't think she's a good person or good pundit because of X, Y, Z. They go into attacking your identity. Those are two different things.
On your identity, Annie, do you view yourself, there's a lot of comment on this on social media, do you view yourself, what do you say to people who say you're a DEI hire?
I think it's racist. I think it's extremely racist to reduce somebody to the colour of their skin without an assessment of all of the qualifications that get them the job. It's been considered racist by a criminal court to say that, by the way. So you've got to be very careful when you say that to a black person who can reel off a bunch of qualifications to do any job. And listen, I've not done any job on the basis of my identity. I've always been the person that can back it up.
It's not racist.
And Sam, you've gone against DEI hires.
It is not racist. It is not. No. It is not racist to question the policies of quotas.
And, I don't know anything about them.
Yes, you do. You know about.
Ask the broadcasters.
You argued the other day again in this interview about the lack of governance and the existence of DEI as a real legal parameter. Well, you know about ESG. You know what that represents. You know that environment, societal and governance are forming parts of the reasons why people invest in business, so that DEI becomes a part of it. And I live in a world, and so should you want to, which merit drives everything. Merit in everything I've ever done, from employing...
There's a lot of black people with merit. There's a lot of diverse people with merit.
And the debate would be had about...
And there has to be an acceptance of that, by the way, because a lot of the cynical critique of DEI comes from... John Barnes said it perfectly the other day on The Overlap. He said there's already a preconceived idea, once you prescribe to a certain race or gender, that you're not good enough for the job.
I'm not sure that's right.
Of course there is.
I've employed across thousands of people, whether it be females in leading positions or people from different ethnicities. And I think most of the people that I've worked alongside, and that includes thousands and thousands and thousands of workers, have driven it based upon merits and creating equal opportunity, not equal outcomes. And when you've got an argument being put in front of you, which you had put in front of you the other day about overrepresentation in the media, your argument was simply that it simply must be that everybody that was put into a position of overrepresentation, because it's seeded in the belief that when it's underrepresentation, it's structural racism. When it's overrepresentation, it's merit. You can't have both at the same time.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did.
I didn't. I said...
Yes, you did.
No, the topic came up about boards. right? About representation.
No, it came up about the media representation and the amount of black and brown faces that are sitting in, in British media.
So the point about
your point was, it must be just because they're better. If a white person said that would be racism.
What did you say, Annie?
What I said was, you can go back to it. I said, he said, there's an overrepresentation of black people in media.
Based on the demographics
and
of the
I
country.
said, based on the demographic, and I said, it could be talent. There are different industries that have an overrepresentation of certain types of people because of talent.
And
right?
it could also be a lack of representation, could also be a lack of talent. But it's automatically assumed that the lack of representation in boardrooms.
No. Well, I think there is such a thing as, gatekeeping, where just for centuries certain people just can't get in, right? And you have to almost create.
I think that's right, but I don't think it exists.
What were you about to say
anywhere
about
near as much.
boardrooms, Simon?
Well, I think about representation. I mean, ultimately, you look around, and there is an argument to be said that people employ what looks like them or what they can relate to. There's always been an argument. That's a human trait. In the end, I believe in today's society, the traits that get you a job or get you into positions of influence are twofold, and you can rank them how you want. Who you know and what they look like, and how good they are. And in the end, it's how good you are will always trump who you know and what they look like. And I speak about that from a position of being someone that's employed thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And do I deny the existence of racism in this country? Of course I do not. There's racism in every community. If you've got one community which operates 70% of the population of this country, numerically you're going to have more racists in that community. Numerically you're going to have more racists, but statistically
Simon,
they're going to be the same.
There's nepotism as well in that. There's I think that you can't assume that everybody that has a job is there on merit. You can't assume that.
If you want a successful business, in the end you have to assume that, because if you put people into positions of influence, and it's all about capital worth as well. And I look forward to the next generation of young black footballers that have huge returns now, that can potentially buy football clubs and create these outcomes and see what they do with their newfound capital. So I do accept that capital value.
Well, that's what I've done. I mean, I bought a football.
But not everything that doesn't involve someone getting what they want involves misogyny or sexism or racism, and I feel that there's a propensity for you to play those cards whenever something you don't like happens to you.
Yeah, but Simon, do you think that some of the criticism that's come Annie's way, and there's been plenty of it, has been steeped in racism?
I think some of the criticism that she got, and I said it to her when she came on the show, I didn't agree with her point of view, and I still don't agree with her point of view about the commerciality behind big transactions inside football clubs and the communication chains that go on. But I said to her at the time, I did not like the way people just marginalised her opinion because they don't like her.
No, but you've just said you think Annie is guilty on occasion of playing certain cards.
I do.
Is one of those cards the racism card?
I think so, yes.
Well,
yeah, I think to suggest that questioning the validity of DEI and saying that's a racist thought, I think is wrong.
A court has said it's a racist thought.
Listen, I think questioning DEI as a policy and quotas as a policy over merit is not a racist thought.
Well,
I think it's an ideology.
If you keep saying to somebody who is highly qualified for the job,
that's not what I'm saying.
No, let me finish. If you keep saying to someone that's highly qualified for the job that they're only there because they're black, not only are you accusing the employer.
No, you question the policy, not the individual. If you question the policy of DEI as a helpful and progressive thought process,
I believe in it.
If you think quotas are a good way to go, where does the quota stop?
It isn't a quota. DEI is not a quota, Simon.
For example, to some extent, it's an underpinned currency. If you look at the FA's policy, the FA have already told us that they're tasking a certain percentage. So DEI is dressed up in a perspective that underpin it has to be some form of outcome, and that will be steeped in quotas.
It's not obligatory in any way, shape, or form.
No, but you
must.
But if you look,
it's not obligatory.
If you look at again environmental and societal governance, if you look at the fact that DEI centres in that, and what is the purpose of DEI? Is the purpose of DEI to allow an equal playing field? Or is it to drive merit to the surface? Or is it to create an outcome?
It's about talent recruitment.
Because equity is a very dangerous commodity, because it's about acknowledging the past and overlaying it at a time when those things are not relevant anymore. People of society, now, one of the most interesting statistics is young white men in this country are the most disadvantaged. But no one's interested in that DEI perspective.
I wouldn't say no one's interested.
Well, they're not really.
I think that,
Well, they're only interested, and if we start talking about it, goes back to what's happening in other ethnicities.
Well, look. I came on here to talk about
Anyway, it's gone off on a
football,
tangent.
but I think that's also always to ask the employers, about the policies that they go by. I think there's the statistics to say diverse organisations are more successful organisations. So there is data that says DEI works if you do it the right way. If you make sure that people from diverse backgrounds are qualified, are equipped for the job. If you have a diverse range of people, your company will do well.
Annie, I want to put this to you before we come to an end on this topic today. That's an hour we've been speaking.
Oh, is it?
To be honest, amazing. Before Christmas, former footballer Joey Barton was handed a suspended sentence for social media posts about broadcaster Jeremy Vine, alongside TV football pundits Lucy Ward and Annie, who's in studio with us just now. He was found guilty by a jury at Liverpool Crown Court of sending grossly offensive electronic communications with intent to cause distress or anxiety. The trial heard he'd crossed the line between free speech and a crime, with 6 posts on Twitter, including comparing Annie here and Ward to serial killers Fred and Rose West. He was given 6 months in custody, suspended for 18 months. How damaging was that to you?
Oh yeah, it's extremely damaging because Barton has a huge following, in terms of, I think it's 3 million followers, right? So the minute an account like that starts saying all sorts of things about comparing me to serial killers and putting my head on serial killers' heads and DEI hire and all sorts of things, it greenlights everybody else to do it, right? So it got to a real... Then he started attacking my family and, said my father was corrupt. And that was the line for me. I thought, whoa, this has nothing to do with punditry now. If you don't think I'm a good pundit, absolutely fine. Why are we going into talking about my family and where my family live and DEI hire? So, I literally had to go legal to stop him. He wasn't going to stop. And for me, it was really about saying, how can we use Barton as an example of some sort of online regulation and consequence so that people go, oh, well, maybe shouldn't do that. Maybe shouldn't say that. And we got the result.
And Simon, I'm looking at you.
I
You're
agree.
sitting nodding along with what
I agree
Annie's
a
saying.
lot of that. I think Joey Barton says the most absurd things. And I've been on the recipient of them. Joey Barton sat on this show and told a pack of lies about me once. About businesses that I'd owned that he knew about, which he knew nothing about, and that I'd built a business that I actually didn't do. I ignored him because he's irrelevant. I don't care what his base is. But we're all different. And I think that if he did the things that and he says he did, and I have no reason to disbelieve her, and then I think she has every right to defend herself. I think some of the arguments that Joey advances, I think he has a point in his arguments. But when he uses the language that he uses, I think he reduces the conversation. He reduces the conversation so no one else wants to be part of it, quite frankly.
Annie, I suppose it boils down to this. After everything we've discussed live on Talk Sport, and I emphasise, I'm really delighted you got in touch with me yesterday and you offered to come in. After all of this, do you still wish to have a future in sports broadcasting? Do you want that?
I think in the UK, I think, to all the points that have been made, it's a very toxic space for me. And I'm fighting now to just even have an opinion because there is a feeling that, like, I can't say anything, right, without the sort of instant backlash that comes with the fact that people have already decided they don't like you, right? Now, I'm a fighter, I'm a resilient person, and I go, no, I've got, I want to say my opinion, but it's I don't feel welcome, and so that was my point earlier, that I don't really have a skin in the game anymore. I'm not trying to get people out the way so I can get in.
But you felt welcome in here.
Of course, yeah, and I'm grateful because I think when people see you from the horse's mouth, there's a lot of misquoting online. There's a lot of people that just say things that I've never said, right? So it's important for me to come in. You see the whites of my eyes. You see how I communicate. I can put sentences together, which you said I couldn't yesterday. And you judge me by that, right? But I think to your point, I think you got to recognise the environments where you can thrive. Got to recognise the environments where you can really do your thing. And I just don't feel the UK at this moment in time. Look, we never know what happens in the future, but I'll always be passionate about women's football. I'm an investor. I own, part own 2 women's football clubs. I want to see women winning. I want to see women earning more money in the game. As I mentioned earlier, I want to see women being the face of their sport and men supporting that.
Yeah.
And I want to clarify, I never ever said that men should not be part of it. That would be hypocritical of me, because I've enjoyed the benefits of men's football.
But do you wish to reconcile with
Absolutely
the likes of Ian Wright to a degree with Laura? Do you feel there's any need to reconcile with them and anybody else?
Well, I mean,
because you've said you felt welcomed in here at TalkSport and you've been most welcome.
Well,
so you can use this now. Do you still feel
absolutely
you should reconcile?
I've had a good relationship with both of them. It's been brilliant at ITV behind the scenes, dinners and drinks and playing football together, and so it's a shame that
But there must be a reason they're not talking to you. The Wright's not calling you back.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I can only tell you that I made a comment about football and his name came up. I appreciated that it was the wrong thing. I apologised and I hoped that he would accept my apology. Unfortunately, when he didn't accept my apology, it greenlit further abuse. Yeah. And that's been difficult to deal with for the last 9 months.
A final one from me to you, Annie. If you don't feel welcome as a pundit or as a broadcaster on a sports show here in the UK, where would you feel?
Oh, internationally, I think there's definitely opportunities in that internationally, but not even just punditry. I mean, I'm an ambassador. I do a lot of work in Africa. I'm an investor, as I mentioned. I part own a club in Italy. We just bought Bristol. So I do different things. I have a corporate speaking career as well. So, you've got to go to pastures new. I have no bitterness whatsoever. If I never do a live game again as a pundit, I'm very proud of the 11-year career I've had. Very grateful for the opportunities I've had in men's football, opportunities I've had in women's football. But I feel like I've earned the right to talk about women's football. I feel like I've earned the right to go, what does the future look like? How can we get more girls in as pundits? How can we get more money into the place? This is where it's coming from. It's not coming from a place of get him out and I get in. It's not, because I've already moved on, So, to your point, there's lots going on internationally. I'm gonna keep going, and I just hope that people can allow space for just different opinions.
Yeah. It sounds like you're almost as busy as Simon.
Yeah, I mean, I keep myself busy.
Annie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Annie Aluko with us live on TalkSport at 11:30.
Resilience. I've said it about Manchester United for years. If there is one word to totally encapsulate the spirit of Manchester United, the word is resilience. Think about the word, think about what it means. Think about Manchester United's history. The word that totally chimes with who they are is resilience. And when Manchester United are at their purest, when Manchester United are at their best, they are nothing if not resilient. Now, against West Ham, they didn't play well. They had the opportunity to go, a couple of points behind Manchester City into third, and they missed the opportunity. But what did they do? You can't play brilliantly every week. They aren't a good enough team to do that. Michael Carrick isn't yet a good enough manager to guarantee that. But when it isn't going their way, when they're a little bit off it, when things aren't necessarily going as they should, they can find that spirit. And what they did tonight was so in keeping with who they are. They are effectively back to themselves. They are adopting a never say die attitude. When Manchester United are themselves, a game is never out of reach, regardless of how long's left, regardless of how badly they're playing. And I think tonight, it shows you that Michael Carrick is instilling Manchester United back into Manchester United. He is putting the purity of Manchester United, the DNA, what it is supposed to be Manchester United, back into the club. When the club were good, it was Michael Carrick's era. Most Manchester United fans, I think, would concede that the best Manchester United team ever was Michael Carrick's team. The team that Michael Carrick was in, that won the European Cup in 2008, is the best Manchester United team. Gary Neville played in both. He played in the 99 team, that was mesmerising, by the way, an absolutely elite level team that won the treble. Gary Neville played in both. Gary Neville said that the best team was the 08 team. The 08 team was reliant upon the brilliance and world-class properties of Michael Carrick. So Michael Carrick knows what Manchester United are. He knows what Manchester United are supposed to be. He knows that Manchester United are an institution that demand the best from the top down. They're not there yet, but he knows what is supposed to be said in that dressing room. And we could tell by the end of the game that they were themselves, because they fought until the bitter end and they never gave up. Like, a game was never out of reach with Ferguson. Fergie time is a thing. The concept of Fergie time exists, and it exists for a reason, because Manchester United are resilient. And what did we see today? We've just seen Benjamin Sesko score a goal in the dying embers of the game. Doesn't that tell us exactly who they are? And then, if you think about what Manchester United were under Fergie, they would have the belief and the desire and the wherewithal and the heart and the tenacity and the spirit to fight to the end. And then they would have the world-class quality to make that desperation to succeed pay off. How many times in injury time under Sir Alex Ferguson did Manchester United turn defeats into draws and draws into victories? Like, how many times? It was a thing that they would do constantly. They would have that relentless desire to win. And they would fight, and then they would have world-class quality. Tonight, they fought, and then in Benjamin Sesko's finish, they displayed world-class quality. I didn't anticipate Benjamin Sesko being able to score a goal of that quality. Like, it's not quite goal of the season, but that is one of the best goals that you will see this season. Like, there are some serious contenders. Some serious goals have been scored. You think about the goal that was scored by Fulham against Liverpool. You think of the goal that was scored by Dominic Szoboszlai the other day. There have been some outrageously good goals scored this season. But you will struggle to find a better finish, just a pure, perfect finish, than the one that was scored by Benjamin Sesko in East London tonight. That is a goal that Manchester United greats of a bygone era would be incredibly proud of. Like, that is a goal fitting for a player of Eric Cantona's quality. It's a goal fitting for Wayne Rooney. It's a goal fitting for Ruud van Nistelrooy. So you are seeing an element of what Manchester United used to be. And the reason that you're seeing it is because they no longer have a fraud in charge. The reason that you're seeing it is because they are playing their best players in their best position. The reason that you're seeing it is because the principles of Manchester United are returning to the club. This nonsense, five at the back, this nonsense, Kobe Mainoo on the bench, this nonsense of playing Bruno Fernandes deep, this nonsense of blaming Benjamin Sesko, which is what Amorim used to do. You know, when you see Benjamin Sesko putting in this performance, when you see him scoring goal after goal, you have to ask yourself, why? How is this happening? Part of the reason is because of the brilliance of Carrick. Carrick is making this happen. Carrick has done this by intelligently protecting Sesko, rather than throwing him in the deep end like Amorim did, rather than throwing him in the deep end like Amorim did to Rasmus Højlund. You protect him, you nurture him. And I read a great article about this Travis fellow who is working daily with Sesko, playing Mbeumo up front to protect and take the pressure off Sesko, and as a result, they are now reaping the rewards. And you can see that Manchester United are back adopting the principles that made them great previously. And the fact that they're scoring goals of that quality and doing it so late, it shows you quite how impressive it all is. And then people are disappointed. I think the reaction is very interesting here, because Manchester United fans, and they're right, Manchester United fans seem to be a little bit disappointed with this performance. You wouldn't have been disappointed with 4 wins and a draw out of 5 games if Ruben Amorim was a manager. You would be celebrating it. And those Ruben Amorim disciples would be telling me quite how brilliant the manager is, quite how wonderful the manager is, quite how progressive and noble the vision of Ruben Amorim is. Those idiot hipsters that backed Amorim would be very happy with this. So under Carrick, you're not going to win every game. You're not a good enough team to do that. But if you can win 4 and draw 1, that is an outrageously good record. You could have only dreamed of 4 wins in 5 games when Carrick took charge. And it's amazing how normal services resume so quickly. The standards of Manchester United are being instilled into the club. United, the way that I see them, the behemoth club, the British footballing institution, they should be disappointed with the point at West Ham. But this version of Man United, They shouldn't. They could have easily lost a game like that. So I think overall, it's a really, really good period for Michael Carrick. And I think that he deserves to be considered for the job. I'm not saying give him the job. I'm just saying he deserves an interview. He deserves to be considered. He has somehow taken Manchester United into a position where they are only 3 points off third. It's almost now likely that they will make it into the top four. There is a serious possibility that they will make it into the top four. They're touching Manchester City above them. You know, Chelsea dropping points tonight, Manchester United dropping points tonight. I guess that's going to be seen as being good news for the likes of Villa and Liverpool. But ultimately, I feel like Manchester United should be really pleased with the way that it is going for Michael Carrick. And there are little tweaks that Carrick is making that I think show us and demonstrate to us that he is worthy of consideration for the job long term. He is getting it right. He's getting almost everything right. I mean, this is a good time for Manchester United. It really is. You know, you think about the substitutions that Carrick is making. He constantly on the front foot trying to make substitutions to win the game. Never, ever giving up on getting something out of the game. Making substitutions that make an impact. So I think it's really impressive. And then you look at the form of Kobbie Mainoo. I think that he has just been a revelation. How Kobbie Mainoo can come into a team and play so well and just ooze class. I think Kobbie Mainoo should go to the World Cup. I just think he's a brilliant, brilliant player. In fact, do you know what? I'm going to do a video on this. Will you do me a favour? Will you like this video? I'm going to do a video on Kobbie Mainoo now. If you like this video. If enough people think it's a good idea, I'm going to do a video exposing the fraud that is Amorim and celebrating the brilliance of Carrick via the lens of Kobbie Mainoo. How Amorim could have a player like Mainoo sitting on the bench. It's a travesty. A travesty. And fair play to Michael Carrick throwing him in the deep end. The second that he's in the deep end, he performs immediately. He doesn't take his time. He slots seamlessly into that midfield. And I honestly think that he should be going to Thomas Tuchel's World Cup team. Like this video if you like the idea. I'm going to do a proper video on it that will be released tomorrow because I think Kobbie Mainoo's a class act. It's a good day for Manchester United. I don't think anyone... Well, there's one man who could be disappointed. There is one man that could be disappointed with the way that it is going, and his name is Frank Illett. He is the Stretford hair style, the United Strand. I got my Stretford Paddocks and my United Strands muddled up. Yeah, I mean it's over, isn't it? It's over. I understand what he's doing. I understand that he's having some fun with it. I wish him well. I never ever have a pop at anyone who's making a business for themselves, making some money for themselves, raising some money for charity. I say good luck to him. But I think he should have a haircut now and pack it in. I think it's over. I think he's made the statement. He's made the noise. He's got the followers. He's got more followers on Instagram than Paul Scholes. Like, he's done really well out of this, and he's raising some money for charity, which is always a noble thing to do. And I wish him well on that. I'd love to meet the bloke, right? But shave it off now. Donate the money to charity. Pack it in. It's over. It was a funny concept at one point. It's gone too far. And the fact now that it is bleeding into the actual football club. The fact now that journalists, I mean, they're idiot journalists for doing this, but journalists are asking the Manchester United manager about a fan having a haircut. You're immediately thinking of the Oasis song, Where Did It All Go Wrong? Aren't you? Like, how is this a thing? How are we asking the manager of a football club about whether or not a fan is going to have a haircut or not? The geezer hasn't had a haircut for 493 days. I don't care. I literally don't care. I can't talk about this. It's always good to raise money for charity, though, so I wish him well on that. But it is time to, quite frankly, pack it in. Too harsh? Let me know your thoughts on that. Overall, I think it's a good day for United. I really do. You nick a point in the dying seconds of a game, it can't be seen as a bad day at the office. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be looking forward to reading them. And remember, let me know in the comments as well. Shall I make this video on Kobbie Mainoo? I think it could be an interesting one. Have yourselves a wonderful night. Ta-da.
Get through today, but we start with Tottenham Hotspur. Thomas Frank insists he's 1,000% convinced he's the right man to lead the club, despite yet another defeat, this time to Newcastle United. They're only 5 points above the relegation zone. Once again, Frank endured chants from the home support, while several fans told him directly to leave the club. Spurs had levelled the game at 1-1 before Jacob Ramsey's first goal for Newcastle earned Eddie Howe's side a vital 3 points. It means Spurs remain winless in the Premier League in 2026. Having already booed the Spurs boss before kick-off, the home crowd didn't hold back at full time, with some telling him directly what they thought as he left the pitch.
I understand the fans' frustration. We are in a position we don't want to be in. That we're working very hard day and night to change. And I also think it's a situation now the club has been in, it's fair to say, almost 2 years, and ended last season as well. I think you need to have a calm head, carry on, keep fighting, keep doing the right thing, make sure we stick together, because you can only get through this together. And that's the board, that's the leaders, that's the players, that's the staff, that's me, that's the fans. We only get through this together.
Will you still be in charge for the Arsenal game, do you think?
Yeah, I'm convinced there will be.
Is there any doubt whatsoever? Do you still have that belief within you?
1,000% sure. I'm also 1,000% sure that I never expected us to be in a situation like this.
OK, Jay Bothroyd is here for the next 2 hours. We're going to be joined by our reporter Michael Bridge as well, but he is making some very important calls right now about Thomas Frank's future. OK, so Jay, to start with, last night, were you expecting Frank to still be in charge after last night? Right now, did you think he would have already been gone?
It's a tough one, because obviously they've brought him in. They wanted to bring him in based upon, you know, how well he done at Brentford. I think he is a good manager, but right now the players just don't seem to be responding. It's doubtful for me, especially because they haven't got a game now for 10 days until that North London derby comes up. So I think if they're going to make that decision to let Thomas Frank go, it probably will be now. So I'll be surprised if I see him in the dugout against Arsenal.
So what do you think has gone wrong? Because, yes, OK, they finished low in the Premier League last season, but they won the Europa League. And the reason for them being so bad in the Premier League was because they prioritised the Europa League. Surely they should have been much better this season.
Yes, they should be. I mean, they got some really, really good players. But I just think there's been too many changes. Tottenham have had too many managers and they haven't stuck by someone. I felt that Ange should have been given the opportunity to come into this season and be the manager, especially after winning silverware. But it's the same old story, really. The attacking football is just not there, conceding goals all the time, the discipline's not there, the injuries are still there. So it's not good times for Tottenham at all.
Yeah, we are desperate to be joined by our reporter Michael Bridge, by the way, because it looks like we have some very, very big news on the future of Thomas Frank. In fact, he's making his way into the studio right now, and I believe we might know what Michael is about to say. Here he is. Michael, what do we know about the future of Thomas Frank?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Yeah, it's our understanding that Thomas Frank has been sacked as Tottenham Hotspur head coach. More on that as we get it, but we can confirm, we understand Thomas Frank is no longer the Tottenham Hotspur head coach. He had still people who were supporting him over the last few weeks. They didn't want to make this decision, but I think it had become untenable. I felt last night that had to be it. It was a really bad atmosphere.
Poor performance.
Lost the fans, and I just felt last night there was no way back. They didn't want to do this, but I think it had to be done. They had to make a decision. They've got Arsenal in, 11 or 12 days' time. I mean, it's not the game anyone wants, but they have made a decision. Thomas Frank is no longer the Spurs head coach.
What was it like there, Michael, last night? Because I know that the fans have turned on Thomas Frank for quite some time. Was last night any worse than it has been over the last few weeks?
Yeah, it wasn't a nice atmosphere. The Spurs PA announced Thomas Frank's name first. There was boos. He walked on the pitch at full time, boos, walked off. It happened a lot this season. Chelsea, you know, and when Mickey van der Ven sort of didn't acknowledge him, Jed Spence walking around clapping. Everyone likes to be at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, apart from the home fans at the moment. It's a great place, but it's not a great place if you're a home supporter at the moment. Someone said to me, Newcastle aren't very good away from home. Spurs aren't very good at home. And it wasn't much of a surprise last night. They will have to be talking now about a replacement, an interim, but...
Will it be an interim definitely?
Not definitely. Hopefully we'll get some information on that later. This is just broken. But whoever will be looking after the club in 11, 12 days' time against Arsenal will have a humongous amount of talent and players out. And they'll only have about 11 or 12 fit senior players to play.
We should just say, obviously, Sky Sports News were very, very polished, very ready for anything. But at the very top, just about 5 seconds to 10 o'clock when we were going on air for this show, Michael was ready to come on. Michael got that word, made the calls to check this story, because that's what we do here. And then we've got him on to do it. We really haven't got that much information at the moment, other than the big news that Thomas Frank has gone from Tottenham Hotspur. They have sacked him. Jay, in terms of who comes in, everyone's been chanting for Mauricio Pochettino's name, but that wouldn't be until the summer. What names would you put out there?
I mean, I heard Jamie O'Hara speak, and I completely agree. I think it should be someone like De Zerbi. But then, you know, when De Zerbi comes in, he wants full control of everything. Transfers, you know, he's got that kind of ego that he's not going to mess around. He's going to just phase people out if you've got a bad attitude. But I think someone like De Zerbi would be great. Obviously, Tottenham fans want to see attacking football. He brings that. He'll bring a philosophy. He's going to bring in certain players that he believes he can get the best out of as well. He done so well at Brighton. He done so well at Marseille. So I think that would be the one Tottenham should be looking at.
Well, let's get some fan reaction now. Chris Cowling joins us now. Chris, well, I was expecting to be asking you, do you expect Thomas Frank to go today? But a few moments ago, he did go. What's your initial reaction to the news?
Tom, J. Michael, good morning to you. It had to happen. I've been saying this for some time now. How long can it go on like this? And when you look at Thomas Frank's record at Spurs and you look at us now 16th in the Premier League, 5 points above the relegation zone, it simply could not go on like this. You know, he's managed Spurs 13 home games in the Premier League. We've heard boos from the Tottenham Hotspur supporters on 9 occasions, either at half-time and or at full-time. And things just couldn't go on like this. We don't seem to have any type of certain style of play. And it just seems to be really poor football this season, what we have seen. And, you know, Spurs need to be climbing up that Premier League table. And Opta put out a stat this morning stating that we've got more chance of relegation than finishing in the top 9. And this is good enough. You know, this North London derby that is coming up Sunday week is hugely important for the club, and these 12 remaining Premier League games are hugely important. So this is absolutely the right decision, and I'm not a fan to be calling for managers to go. I like to see managers given time and patience, but I think on this occasion it simply was not going to work with the style of play, and I think that a number of players weren't actually playing for him, and when you don't have that support from the supporters, it is a huge problem. And last night it was a toxic atmosphere at half-time and especially at full-time, and a lot of empty seats, which is very, very sad to see.
Chris, obviously that North London derby coming up, that's a tough game now for Arsenal because, you know, normally when a manager comes in, there's a big reaction from the players. So I know you have some top players that are out injured, but that's going to be a really, really difficult game now. My question to you, though, is when this new manager comes in, whether it's interim or permanent manager, are you prepared to see losses? Are you prepared to see a big change, but the football is good?
Jay, I think the Spurs fans, and I think I've said this before on this show, and especially to you, I think that we've all been very patient in recent history. You know, in our new stadium, we've gone through 6 managers, 6 permanent managers, 3 interim managers. We've been prepared to be very patient with a lot of managers as well. Of course, Ange Postecoglou had a lot of injuries. Yes, injuries have played a huge part in Thomas Frank's time at Tottenham, but you've got to remember as well that the media, you know, absolutely battered for Ange Postecoglou last season with injuries. He still delivered the Europa League trophy. So I think that we've been very patient with managers overall. And yes, I'm prepared to be very patient with another manager. But I think when you see the type of football that Thomas Frank was trying to play, you know, there wasn't even a plan A, let alone a plan B that Postecoglou
Well, you can't be too patient. Whoever comes in now, whether it's interim or not, you can't be too patient because you've only got not that many games, really. You've only got a few more months in order to stay in the Premier League. You've got another 12 games to go and you're only 5 points above West Ham, and West Ham's form is good.
Would you take Ange back?
I don't think Ange Postecoglou would come back, and I don't see the football club going down that route either. I just hope at this stage that we do have an interim manager coming in, even if it is a couple of ex-players, to get this team, the confidence back.
Which ex-players? Because we know that you like Pochettino in the summer. We know that the fans in general like Pochettino in the summer. But which ex-players do you want now?
It depends who's available, Tom. I'm sure that now Thomas Frank has actually been sacked. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people putting themselves forward, and I'm sure that they'll be making a lot of phone calls as well to see who is available. But I just think that when you look at what Manchester United have done with Michael Carrick there...
Which names stand out, though? Which names stand out? If you want an ex-Tottenham player to come in, which ones stand out? Available or not, whichever ones, they want to approach, who would you like to see?
Tom, it's got to be Harry Redknapp, surely.
Well, you've just said Redknapp. Jamie O'Hara has mentioned Tim Sherwood before. Someone threw in Jermaine Defoe as well. Who would you say?
Well, you could say any of those names, Tom. I just think that if you got 2 or 3 of those people in, one as manager, one as assistant, one as a coach, if you had a collective, 2 or 3 ex-players, something that means something to the football club. You've seen what Michael Carrick has done at Manchester United. It has worked. It has given Manchester United, a huge boost of energy, and I feel like that is exactly what is needed at Tottenham. And, when people don't want to be going to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, that is a huge issue. And as I mentioned, the booing at the stadium, for Thomas Frank is just, it's unbelievable. I've never seen scenes like it. I've never seen a fan base be so unsupportive of a manager because they just don't believe that it was going to be, the right thing going forward.
I think Michael might have some more news to bring us.
No, Michael Dawson's just texted me saying Robbie Keane, but yeah, I mean that is someone
that would be a good manager.
Yeah, I mean,
but he's got experience.
Yeah, but I was told
as much as Redknapp,
he wouldn't come as an interim. I think because he's done ever so well abroad, hasn't he? But that's a very interesting one from Michael Dawson there.
He's currently in a job, isn't he, at Ferencváros?
Yeah. And would he do it as an interim? I don't know. But yes, it's a good shout from Dawsey there. But he knows the club inside out. And there's just a detachment there, isn't there, Chris? Is that how you feel at the moment? A real detachment? I'll be honest with you, Chris. I'm looking at the fixtures now, and when I was walking in today, I don't know where the next win came from. So it was they'd had to make a decision over the next couple of days. They've made it. Was it? Do they think Spurs are better off with or without Thomas Frank in terms of these last games? And they've decided that they need to make a change. But look at the squad. This person who's going to inherit. I mean, there's so many players out. And they're not coming back next week or the week after.
Bridges, that's the 11 that started yesterday is still a good 11 to go and win football matches. You can't tell me they're not a good 11 there. Yes, in terms of depth and squad, okay, but you've got Solanke up front. You got good players in there. You got Sarr in there, Van der Ven's in there. They got good players still. Spence, they've still got very good players. So I feel like, yeah, we can blame injuries, and injuries is important over the course of a season. But when you just isolate games like last night, it was a terrible performance. Tottenham didn't even come out the half for the pretty much the first half. So they got a lot to sort out. It's not just the personnel. I feel like they need to go and sort out someone to come in. I think it should be a permanent manager, to be honest, that can go and start working with his team, build a philosophy, build a club, because right now it's dire. Boos every week. When you turn on Tottenham now and you go to watch them, it's just boring. It is really boring.
I agree with both of you. Of course, injuries have played a huge part, in Ange Postecoglou's time at Spurs and, of course, now Thomas Frank's. But you have to find a way as a manager. Even Frank said that last night. He's got to find a way of getting results. And when Spurs are slipping down that league table like that, this is definitely the right decision. Every Spurs fan since last night, even during the game, was calling for Thomas Frank to go. This is absolutely the right decision to make as Tottenham Hotspur. But they've now got to make the next decision the right one. I completely agree with you, Jay, that we have a number of good quality players at Tottenham, and we should be playing a certain way of football, a different style of football, entertaining. I remember coming on here a couple of months ago saying that it wasn't entertaining. At that point, I was worried about the entertainment style, and now I'm worried about where the next points are coming from, like Michael said. But we've got 12 games now. We could salvage something, and I know it's a long shot, but we could get a European spot if we get into a good run I know you laugh, but it is.
Chris, come on, man. It's not April Fool's already.
It's mathematically possible. It is mathematically possible.
Yeah, I doubt if that's going to happen now. I mean, first of all, you got, is it Fulham away? Then you got Palace. Then you got
Arsenal first.
Sorry, Arsenal, then Fulham away, then Palace. I mean,
Liverpool away.
Liverpool away. Them games there, I mean, even those games there, I can't see where you're getting wins from.
Do these players have the fight, right? So it's, what is it, Arsenal, yeah? When Spurs played Arsenal a few months ago, it was an utter disgrace of a performance. I've seen worse Spurs sides in the late 90s show fight when they went to Highbury, good Arsenal teams. The Chelsea at home, do they have the fight, Chris? You know, the Arsenal game's going to be tough, right? And Arsenal in the away, and they're going to be probably loving every minute of it. Then the week after, Fulham away. Last year, Fulham away, Matisse Tell was speaking to fans.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one, Chris. Then what's the next one? I've got
Palace.
Palace, nice one, Jay. You're not bad for Arsenal, are you? Palace. And
Palace at home.
I'm just looking at the fixtures. That's my concern.
And then Liverpool.
That's my concern.
I think there would be huge concern if Thomas Frank was still here. I just think now, if Spurs are going to get an interim manager or indeed make a permanent appointment, I think that he's going to give everyone a lot of renewed energy. And
The thing is,
when
Michael,
I saw
the club weren't prepared for this because you've quite rightly said they did not want to do this with Thomas Frank. Does that mean that they might not have a contingency ready?
After West Ham, Chris will back this up. It was, again, atmosphere, very unsavoury. And it's given West Ham a new lease of life.
Yeah.
They were on the way out. And all of a sudden, the doctor turns up. And then look at West Ham at the moment. You know, they've got a bit of fight in them. Now, but after the West Ham game, there was many who had had enough. That was it. There was understanding that, no, they wanted to carry on with Thomas Frank. And I think another reason for it is because of the lack of options. But you would think and expect and hope that they have been looking into it since then. But I still believe they were reluctant to make this decision. But was it getting to a point where it was actually cruel for him to carry on? But on Monday, when I was in the press conference, I asked about relegation, and it didn't feel like... So Thomas didn't really mention it at all. Or he said, all that matters is the next game. But Spurs are in it. They're deep in it.
Deep in it. Deep. As well, Chris, what kind of calibre of manager would you like to see at Tottenham? I mean, there's obviously Glasner's going to be leaving. There's talks of Iriola, you know, potentially leaving because he's so good.
Silva.
You know, Silva, again. De Zerbi's just left Marseille. Like, what kind of calibre would you
And all the international managers who might go in the summer as well.
Who?
All of the international managers might go in the summer.
What, well, you're talking about Turkle?
Pochettino.
Poch maybe, but forget about Tuchel, forget about Ancelotti, forget about Nagelsmann, forget about Enrique. They're not going Tottenham.
Nagelsmann could have had the...
They're not going Tottenham. They're not going Tottenham.
He was the creator there, you know, so Mickey van der Ven and Dragusin never had anyone to mark. It was just, you know, moving around them. They caused them all sorts of problems, runners from midfield. They just dominated the game, in my opinion. So it was a really poor performance from Tottenham and disappointing night for them.
Yeah, certainly was. 8 without a win now for Spurs. That's the worst run since 2008. You said before kick-off, if they lost tonight, they'd be dragged into that relegation battle. Are they in it now?
Yeah, they're in it. They're in a relegation battle. Unfortunately, you can't dress it up any other way. You know, the table doesn't lie. North London Derby comes next. You know, it's not impossible that they could win that game. They would love to win that game because they would give them the confidence to move on. It would obviously upset their neighbours, who it looks like they're favourites to win the title as well, which rubs salt in the wounds. But it's not getting any easier. You know, and they go away to Fulham after that. And then they play Palace, and then the games come thick and fast after that. And it's about confidence, about getting one result and building and bouncing into the next. At the moment, they keep losing games, and it becomes a habit in the end. And the fans are not with them. There's a disconnect between the fans and the pitch, and certainly the manager. It's real problems at the moment.
Yeah, there certainly are. A disappointing night in North London for Spurs, who lose to Newcastle. Here's post-match reaction from their manager, Thomas Frank.
Press conference yesterday, there were a lot of questions about whether Spurs are in a relegation battle. You didn't mention relegation by name, but the gap is closing. Is this team in a relegation battle? Do the squad understand the position that they're in the league table?
We definitely need to understand we are not in a top position, and that we need to do everything we can to work very hard to get out of.
Obviously, you'll have heard the boos and the chants against you, chanting that you be sacked in the morning. Like, what can you tell the Spurs fans that gives you confidence, to give them confidence that you are the man to dig them out of this position?
I think I understand the frustration. I also understand it's the easiest thing is to point at me. That's fair. That's part of the job. Unfortunately, I also know one thing: I'll work day and night very hard to do everything I can to turn it around. But also, it's never only one person. I also think it's fair to say that this situation we've been in also last year. So there's something we need to get through and improve, and I'm not in doubt that I'm part of that.
Obviously, there's 12 days now until the next game, the North London derby. Have you spoken at all to the hierarchy at the club? Are you confident that you'll be in your position? Have you any worries about your job at Spurs?
No, I spoke to them yesterday, so no.
And results, performances like tonight, the reaction from the supporters, do you think that will have any bearing on them changing their opinion between now and the Arsenal game?
Yeah, Arsenal game coming up next. We're all wondering and waiting to see. I wonder what you think, Tim. Will he be there for the Arsenal game?
I think if he hasn't been sacked by now, they've had a lot of opportunities to sack Thomas Frank. It hasn't been good enough. Then they won't sack him. I think they'll persevere with him till the end of the season and see if he can get himself out of the hole what he's in. It's the first time I've ever seen him deflect. He normally takes all the brunt of it and takes it on the chin. He was talking about, let's not forget, last season as well. You know, it's accumulation. It wasn't great last year. He's deflecting around. Don't like that, personally. I just think the brunt stops with you. You're the manager. He's going on the self-preservation a little bit, which is unusual for Thomas Frank. I think it's the first time I've ever heard him not take responsibility.
Yeah,
full responsibility.
Interesting comment, as you've pointed out. The situation was like this last year, is what he said. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's basically saying it's not all my making. You know, they were here with Ange, and they kind of saved the season.
Does he want praise, Owen, because they're 16th and they finished 17th last season?
But I think what he said, first of all, he's missing his two best players, Kulusevski and Maddison. I think they're doing really well in the Champions League, you know, so I think, but again, they had this situation last season. They haven't invested well, and he's missing his best players, Kudus as well, so it's not all his fault.
Thomas Frank has been sacked by Tottenham Hotspur. Spurs are 16th in the Premier League, just 5 points above the relegation zone. They're winless in their past 8 Premier League games, their longest run without a win since October 2008. They've won just 2 of their past 17 league matches, and they picked up only 12 points in that time. So after 8 months, Thomas Frank is out of a job. Simon's alongside me, and so too is former Liverpool, former Tottenham midfielder Danny Murphy. And the odds, as far as the bookies are concerned, out-and-out favourite to get the job, 8-11, Roberto De Zerbi, who parted company only last night with Olympique Marseille. But what are Tottenham fans thinking this morning? They were booing Thomas Frank's name before kick-off, some of them. As the teams were announced last night, they were chanting once again throughout the game, sacked in the morning at their own manager. They've got their way. Thomas Frank is out of a job. Who's next? Because in 11 days' time, they're at home to Arsenal. Yes, Arsenal in the Premier League. David is a big Spurs fan. He has called in 03717 223344. David, I think you're calling in from Australia. Good morning. What do you want to say to this news? Frank's gone.
I think that he should have gone about a month or 2 months ago. I'm not going to lie. I thought that when we appointed him, it was a sensible appointment. I thought that he would have good in-game management, tactics, strategy. I thought he'd be a good man manager. He has a track record of improving players. I mean, the list is endless. And he's been a massive disappointment. His substitutions are baffling. I think he's totally got the fan base wrong by referring to that lot, the Woolwich, and his first press conference. We may lose more games as we go through this transition. And so, a lot of the blame goes at his door. I think the Chelsea game at home, where we didn't lay a glove on a not very good Chelsea team, was the first red flag. So some of the blame can be at him, but frankly...
He's got 11 players out at the moment, David. 11 players out.
I know that, but the fact is Simon, again, going, well, number 1 Levy was there, number 1 Paratici is there. They're not there anymore. This is Daniel Levy's legacy. This is a poor squad. I'm not expecting to replace a generational talent like Kane with like another generational talent. But
what do you mean this is Daniel Levy's legacy?
Because look at the squad. Look at the squad that we have. It's a poor squad. It's a poor squad. We've gone through a period of time where we didn't buy anyone for a year and a half. The first time I spoke to you this August show was when Conte left, and I said I was very worried. Look how many managers that we've gone through since then.
You could see Daniel. You could say Daniel Levy's legacy has been a state-of-the-art stadium and a European trophy.
Daniel, if you're saying that a state-of-the-art stadium, which is mortgaged the club up to its eyeballs, he is in the Sunday Times rich list. He's worth $500 million at the moment, and he's going to walk away when he sells his shares. His legacy has been that he's done a great job business-wise. He's made a lot of money for Enid and himself. He's charged the highest season tickets, and he's walked away with one trophy. That's fine. He's won 2 trophies in 20-odd years, and in the 2010s, the first decade, we haven't won a trophy since the 1940s, which was interrupted by that minor thing called World War II. So the blame of this, you've got ENIC, and I joke about the Lewis family, the next generation of new owners. This has been what it's been for 25 years.
What do you say? What would you say to David Simon?
Well, he's right in the last point, and right in a lot of the points that he makes, and he's right that this squad isn't great, but this squad is not a 17th, 16th in the league squad.
That's the key.
It is a better squad than that. Is it? If you're comparing it with the top 6 side, yes, I think you can say to some extent, with the exception of perhaps Aston Villa, that it's not a great side and not a great squad. But when you say that it's poor per se, it's incumbent upon the manager and the players to get a better outcome. This squad is not a squad that should be sitting 16th in the league, irrespective of any injuries they've got.
It's full of internationals still, even with the injuries. It's full of international players.
But that's where they were last season.
Yeah, but they've invested.
Yeah, but when you say it's full of internationals, and everyone goes Richarlison, he's Brazil's striker.
Yeah.
You know, if he go back, you remember the 1982 World Cup, Brazil, a great team. They had the Serginho up front, a lump, all due respect to him. He wasn't very good. Richarlison, we paid 60 million quid for him because Everton are FFP issues. He's not good enough. People say internationals very easy these days. We are a mid-table squad and club at the best. Frank should have got more of them. I get that. The fact that 2 seasons running now, we are talking about relegation for a squad of our history, which, Danny, you would know a bit. You played for us.
Oh, we just lost David. He's calling in from Australia.
He's right in terms of the recruitment should have been better. But this squad of players should be in the top half of the table.
I'm looking at the Tottenham Hotspur official statement that's now come in. Results performances have led the board to conclude that a change at this point in the season is necessary. Darren's a big Spurs fan. Darren, your reaction. Good morning.
Hi, morning, mate. Where do we start? I mean, Thomas Frank was so completely out of his depth tactically. No, the way that he was the fans and vice versa. However, let's get real here. We've had Conte, we've had Mourinho, we've had Pochettino, we've had everybody. The fault of where we are, there is only one thing, and that is the owners. And it has been, not last season, this season, 10 years of mismanagement. No, since Paul Barber left our football club, we have had nobody who knows anything about football there. We've got a sporting director from Aston Villa, yeah? Well, how have they done the last few years without him? What has happened at Tottenham under Daniel Levy's chairmanship, but he was working for ENIC, is we've bought all these players for 50 or 60 million quid. It's all about a transfer fee, and a transfer fee is like a mortgage. They haven't paid the wages. There is not one of the front 6 that will get into another top 6 team. And it doesn't matter who you have as manager of that club with these owners. You might as well let Chirpy the mascot be in charge till the end of the season. Because it is such gross negligence of management that Tottenham Hotspur are going to end up like Leeds United did and Newcastle United did with the way that they are run. And I am telling you, and I said this in December, and everybody laughed at me, and I wish I'd have backed it at 300-1. They have not got the players with the bottle or anyone who knows anything about football to get them out of this. Roberto De Zerbi will last 5 minutes under this Tottenham regime.
Darren, let me put this to you before you go. You're going to stay up?
I don't think we are, no. And can I just say one other thing before I go? I don't think we are. It's heartbreaking. I can say one other thing.
Go on.
That sums up Tottenham at the moment, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you know that a load of season ticket holders got emails and letters 2 weeks ago about a recalibration in pricing for next season? That's what Tottenham's become. That's what Tottenham Hotspur, my football team, has become.
Darren, thank you very much indeed for the call. Tottenham say this morning Thomas Frank has conducted himself with unwavering commitment, giving everything in his efforts to move the club forward. But clearly, it wasn't enough, was it? Because Thomas Frank is looking for a new job, sacked in the last half an hour. We're live in TalkSport. More calls coming up from you after this 10:30 bulletin. 03717 223344.
Now an informed Manchester United side travelled to an informed West Ham side last night, and it was live on TalkSport. Šeško salvaged a late draw for United with, I have to tell you, an absolutely magical goal. Yes. Magical goal. Yes. And Michael Carrick explained after the game how he's got Šeško scoring in a United shirt.
I think he's largely helped himself, to be honest. I think the way he's applied himself and the way he's worked and doing bit extras and learning and looking at clips and doing a lot of work with the coaches, I think it's just what you'd hope and expect from a player, but it's credit to him for doing it, and in the end you get some sort of reward for it, you know, and that's two huge moments for him. I know tonight was for a point, and maybe kind of doesn't have that same emotion, but it's a big goal in a big stage of the game, so credit to him, you know, he deserves it.
Brilliant goal. Do you know, it says here in the kind of running order, have a wee chat, what was my three things to take away from last night? First thing I would say was the goal. I mean, I'll talk about Souček's goal. I loved it as well, Gab. Great run. I think it's Bowen gets played on the right-hand side, and he makes a run, and we've seen him do it. He normally comes in and heads these ones in, but he makes a run in the blind side of Martinez, who can't see him, and he goes goal side of Kobe Mainoo, who probably should do a little bit better, but I think that he thinks the goalkeeper is coming for it, Grink. But Souček times his run perfectly. First thing I would say, what I noticed last night about the game and about the stadium, West Ham fans right behind their team. Gabby, honestly, the place, maybe the best I've heard the place, to be brutally honest. Yes. You know, I would go as far to say that. Obviously, they were devastated to lose the late goal from Šeško, you know, which we spoke about. But in terms of a team united with the fans off the pitch, that was it last night. No, I thought it was a tremendous atmosphere.
Only watched bits because obviously I was concentrating on Spurs, Newcastle, but the parts I watched, slide tackles, breaking their neck to get back in position,
blocking shots,
and literally like stretching to get a toe in to stop a ball. If Spurs fans were showing that sort of level of, you know, togetherness and fight, their fans wouldn't be booing after games. They'd be like, you know what? Yeah, we lost again, but you know what? They're putting tackles in, they're tracking back. Souček looked like he couldn't breathe. Yeah. He was that involved in the game and running around that much. Fernandez is looking good, isn't he? Somerville, 4 goals. He's actually
Somerville was really lively again. You know? Really lively. The goal, the one thing, you know, we'll talk about Šeško's goal and then we'll talk about United. Šeško's goal, different class, Gabby. I mean, you know it as well as I do. That ball comes in, I think Sembuemo puts it in, and it's a harder one to take because it's an in-swinger towards the goal rather than away from the goal, where it's slightly easier to take. And there's only one thing he can do, and that's sort of get in front and clip it with a bit of whip, like a chip spin type thing.
That could go horribly wrong.
Oh, easy.
Where it hits a corner flag.
Easy.
And a lot of players there try and maybe take it down and control it. That's why Disasi probably didn't come super tight. He's thinking... You're not scoring from there.
That's what I think, mate.
Yeah. He will take a touch on ready.
I think he thinks he's got that covered. He's never going to hit that.
He's going to control it. Outstanding finish. And like we said earlier, only top corner that side was going to score.
The one other thing you've got to say about United, not at their best, right? I don't think they were at their best.
Cunha and Mbeumo.
Yeah. Quieter.
Yeah.
I've got to say, I think they were quieter. but they found a way not to lose that game.
Yeah.
My point is, and I think you might agree, 6-7 weeks ago, United are losing that game.
And it's not a bad point.
Of course it is.
Because Chelsea...
Both informed teams.
Yeah, Chelsea drew as well. Villa got a tough game tonight. You're still Manchester United, 2 points behind Villa, and you're only 5 behind Manchester City. So it's not all doom and gloom from last night for Manchester United, but I will look at even tonight and say, if I'm Liverpool, they have to take advantage of Chelsea dropping points and Manchester United dropping points, because if Liverpool win tonight, they're on to 42, only 2 points behind Chelsea. But must win.
I think they're going to one of the hardest places to go.
Haven't lost this season in the Premier League.
I know. That's a tough game for Liverpool.
Haven't lost.
And I thought they actually did all right when they get beat at Arsenal. I know they get beat 3-0 away from home, but they show signs, don't they, Sunderland?
And another team have got the fans on side.
Oh, you better believe it. I'm up there tonight. I cannot wait. That place will be absolutely rocking the night, Gav.
Got your Sunderland shirt.
Oh, my Sunderland shirt on, aye. The old number 14.
I fancy Sunderland to win.
Do you?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
See, that's the thing.
It's not a surprise.
No, it's not.
It's interesting to see the odds of Coral.
I'd be interested to see what the boys run.
Spurs shambles. Thomas Frank has got to go now. Not tomorrow, not the next day. Now. Get him out of this football club. We are going down with him in charge. Manchester United can't make it 5 from 5. They drew at the London Stadium. Spurs now just 5 points from the drop. Chelsea, you lot just as bad. Bottled it against Leeds. Embarrassing in the end. Cole Palmer misses from a yard out. Bournemouth have a new superstar in Rayan. What a player he is. Elsewhere, we're going to be joined by Spencer Oliver. Loads to go out though. Big night of Premier League action. Get involved in this show. Spurs fans, where do we go from here? 03 717 22 33 44. Woo!
Willock whips in a dangerous cross. Chow! Saved by the goalkeeper, and Chow pokes in the rebound. The Spurs are back, and the Spurs fans cannot wait to get out of their seats and head for the concourse areas. An aimless, lifeless Tottenham display so far. Notching it into the path of Ramsey. What a brilliant goal! Newcastle United are back in front. That was a real touch of class. And Spurs have it all to do again. Tottenham 1, Newcastle 2.
To dare is to dare.
Directed at Thomas Frank. Spurs are back.
How have we not?
In disguise, mate. Results. I'm looking. You haven't watched the Spurs game. I watched it tonight, mate.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's one of the worst performances I've ever seen. Like, seriously, we are so bad. We don't look like scoring. We cannot break lines. We kick the ball into no man's land. We run down dead ends. We cannot defend. Like Newcastle, every time they look like going forward, they look like they could score. We got back in the game, and within 5 minutes, it's like Newcastle go up a gear and they score again. Like
Spurs are back.
Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen a team so down in the dumps as this. Like, it is so bad.
At 2-1, did you ever look like getting back into it? Were you ever? Was there a period in the game you've gone
The lack of quality, Jace. The lack of quality in Tottenham's team. I know there's injuries, right? I get that, and there's some good players out. I get
that. That can't.
But that cannot be the excuse
you can't keep
for the performances that we're putting in.
No.
The lack of ideas, the lack of creativity, the lack of coaching. Honestly, I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like it. Thomas Frank's got to go, but these players have got to butt their ideas up. They are in a dogfight. They are in a relegation fight, and I don't know if they've got a stomach for it.
Right. Okay. So you need a manager for the stomach for the fight, right? You need the players. One of those has got to have it. If you're telling me, and you're a Spurs fan, right, that both of those are missing, we are talking in serious doo-doo. Serious doo-doo, mate. You know, Now, I remember speaking to you 3-4 weeks ago, and then last week, and I'm saying you ain't going down, mate. There's no way. And I genuinely meant it. I'm now looking at the league table, and I'm going, I don't know. Actually, I'm starting to wonder. So West Ham have gained a point on you.
Yeah, they've gained a point. That's unlucky tonight that they didn't.
Right,
they didn't
okay.
get through.
But listen. It's not good. It's a point. I'm looking at you. 29.
Mate, it's disgusting.
It's too.
It's disgusting.
Yeah. West Ham.
West Ham look like they've got the fight in them. And
Yeah,
they've got the way of, and Nuno, I think with him as a manager, I just feel like they will pick up.
Do you know what
points.
you often
They will
find,
fight
don't you? There's
to
one
stay in the league.
team. We've seen this. It doesn't happen every single season, but you do find there is one team that you don't expect to get dragged into it. And it doesn't happen every season. In fact, it might happen one every 3, 4, 5, whatever it might be. You don't want to be that team, mate, because you're right. You're a side that are built for playing at the other end of the table, Champions League, winning the Europa League. This is a different fight. You need different tools. You need you need to scrap. You need to dig things out. From what you're telling me, you don't look or sound like your team can dig a result.
Spurs fans, give us a call. Delighted to say that Johnny is now a man who might have an even bigger march ahead of him than he thinks.
I would take Harry Redknapp. I would phone Harry Redknapp and say, listen, Harry, I know you got Jukebox Man at Cheltenham coming up, but we need you in here.
I love it. I'd go in anywhere.
What a night it was for Spurs in the Champions League. They've beaten Juventus 2-0. Over we go to Cheltenham.
What a performance the last 3 strides, and the Jukebox Man has won the Cheltenham Gold Cup. What a terrific performance for Harry Redknapp's horse. Dreams do come true. The biggest sporting achievement of his career.
Monday morning, Tottenham are officially safe after a sensational win at Anfield. Redknapp's at the wheel, and surely he's got to stay there.
Sounds good, doesn't it?
This is good. Hold on a minute. I've not even given you the big build-up yet, mate. This is a big build-up coming. I've been doing a lot of planning your diary for the next month, mate. With so many Spurs fans online calling for Harry to come back to Spurs. Harry's week in the middle of March. I've got it arranged. I'm going to do his travel. It's arranged like this. Champions League game midweek against Juventus or Atletico Madrid. Straight to Cheltenham and watch the Jukebox Man win the Gold Cup. And then it's off to Anfield on Sunday just to beat Liverpool. And you're the last Spurs man to do that. But the big question is, Harry, is Sandra giving you your backing to take this job?
Oh, don't, Ali. She's there. She said the day I listened to her, she said it will be the first. But
listen, mate, how are you? In good form, first of all.
Morning,
Ali,
Harry.
yeah, we're all good. Gabby, yeah, we're all great. Thank you. Yeah,
that's brilliant, mate. Brilliant. Well, I'll tell you what. Clearly, Tottenham's the place we're going to go, but I'm going to start off somewhere else. I'm starting off at West Ham, Harry. I was there last night. I've got to say to you, mate, the atmosphere might have been the best I've ever heard it. You know, they go ahead, lovely goal, late arrival, Souček comes into the box, and then obviously Šeško hits a wonder goal. But the point I was going to make to you, the spirit and the connection between the fans and the players on the pitch was really, really strong, and they've got a chance, mate.
Yeah, big chance. I mean, you look at they've hit form, Ali, just at the right time, haven't they? They could have won it, should have won at Chelsea, went 2 up. But their performances, got Burnley last week, could have been a difficult one, see them off. No, they're in great form. And as you say, the atmosphere, the crowd are behind them. I thought last night it'd be a difficult game for Man United, and it certainly was. I mean, they should have won it in the end, West Ham, shouldn't they? So I think they'll be fine. I mean, they're just coming at the right time. Their form's good, their momentum, crowd are with them. I think they're a month ago I'd have said they're going to go down. Yeah. They really did look like they were banging it, and I couldn't see any way out. But they've turned it round at the moment. They're on this great run, and there's confidence is high. A couple of new strikers come in, made a bit of difference to them. So, yeah, things are looking okay at West Ham. That's great. 2
wide boys, Harry, I think have been absolutely terrific. Somerville, in particular, I think Bowen's just a class act, but Somerville, he looks really direct. He's been positive. Harry, quick question for you. I'm taking Bowen to the USA with the World Cup. Are you?
Yeah, for sure. He'd be in my squad, yeah. I mean, you'd have him anywhere, wouldn't you, Ali? You know, he gives it absolutely everything. You know, he works, he scores goals. He's a great team player, and he's got real good ability. I love him. Yeah, he is Mr. West Ham for me at the moment. He's been amazing.
Harry, moving on to Spurs. I remember speaking to you loads on this show last season, and the same convos about Ange and it's not working and the poor home record. And we're here again, aren't we, with a new manager? 2 wins in their last 17 league games. Spurs not won a league game in 2026. Second bottom in the home form records. What's the future looking like for Thomas Frank, Harry?
Well, obviously, it's a shame. I mean, he's under pressure, big pressure, isn't he, Gabby? You know, it's, I don't know. I thought that last night against the Newcastle team that have been out of sorts recently, I thought, well, mate, they've got a big chance tonight. They have got loads of injuries for sure, which definitely doesn't help them, but they've still got a team there. Like, you know, I'm looking at it and well, it ain't that bad, you know. Solanke's back and they look all right, but I don't know. There's something. But it's just not been now. It was last year under Ange. It's just been a continuous thing, hasn't it? So really, since Poch left, really, they've just been. You know, every year's been a bit of a struggle. So it's a shame. I don't know. He's hanging on for a grim life at the moment. I don't know what the outcome will be. It'll be. I don't know the new people that are running the club. So you know, I think if Daniel had been there, I think it might have been all over by now for him. You know, after last night, but. It'll be interesting to see what they do. It's certainly going to be it'll be an interesting day. I'm sure there'll be lots of meetings today, and you know, decisions will be made. But I wouldn't know which way they'll go.
Do you know what would be concerning for me, Harry? I mentioned to you when we first come on there. I mentioned to you West Ham obviously banging trouble, but the one thing that look as though they've got a bit of spirit. And I don't think you can underestimate the relationship between the supporters off the pitch and the players on it. And that was a real connection I saw last night. And that, to me, sadly, is what Tottenham don't, or one of the things that Tottenham don't have at this moment in time.
Well, you lads know well. You know, when you got that feeling around like last night, say the connection with the fans is. I knew last night Man United come into town. I thought it's going to be a great atmosphere tonight. It's just going to be a tough game for Man United. When West Ham fans are with them like they are at the moment, it's a difficult place to go. You know, it's been over the years. But Tottenham, you know, it's the players look short of confidence, and the fans obviously have got no confidence in anything that's happening there at the moment. There's a bad feeling around the place, and you know, you get edgy. There's no confidence coming from the team and giving the fans anything to get behind. It is a very difficult recipe for disaster, isn't it, really? And if they're not careful, it's going to be a disaster. It's certainly heading that way. They're banging. They've suddenly got, you know, sucked into a relegation battle. It looked like Burnley would go with Wolves and look like West Ham now. Because West Ham getting out. Now you're looking for somebody else. You know, I thought Palace are getting sucked in.
So did I.
Leeds look like they're going to get out. Leeds are a bit form. Picking up great results.
Sometimes, Harry, isn't it about fight? I mean, I look at the gap now, only 5 points between Spurs and West Ham. And you look at West Ham, they're showing fight, aren't they? Even against Chelsea first half, they were very good. They beat Burnley last night, unlucky to not get a result. Where Spurs look like they haven't got fight. I know which dressing room I'd rather be in at the moment, or what team I'd rather manage. But we can't let you go without asking you. The North London derbies in 11 days, Harry. You've managed Spurs in that game so many times. Come on, Harry. The fans need you.
Oh my God, North London derby! What a hard game! What a hard game for Tottenham to pick up a result in. Oh my! If you're playing anybody at the moment, you wouldn't want to be playing Arsenal if your life depends on it. So I mean, it's going to be a difficult time for Thomas going into this game for sure. But it's a no-brainer, really, in terms of. If they get beat, everybody expects them to get beat. But if they could pull off a result, it could turn everything around for the rest of the season for them. So, it'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
Harry, I think to be honest, I think I'd advise you to be jumping, and I mean riding on the jukebox, man, jumping over the last. That's a safer option, mate.
It looks safer, yeah. I mean, Yeah, I hope you're right. I hope it is a safe option and they're coming to the last, and the jukebox man's drawing clear. I would be closing my eyes out, that's for sure. Oh my God.
We're looking forward to it though, mate. It's. I've got to say the meeting, the festival. It's just. It's. I think it's just it's up there with British sport, mate. I can't wait, and I'm guessing. I'm hoping we'll see you there. Obviously, yeah.
I'll be there. I'd love to come up and see you. I always look forward to seeing you every year. I'll come up and obviously come up with most. Come and have a morning with you and
brilliant
before the big race and calm my nerves down a bit. Yeah.
Oh, get everything cross you, Harry. Thanks for joining us this morning. Take care.
Mate. Well done, lads.
I think that win, what that'll do to City and Haaland getting his goal, that'll put a bit more pressure on Arsenal, I think.
I'm not even a Liverpool fan, but I looked at that and was like, the whole thing's just anti-football.
I feel for Thomas Frank at the minute because he looks tired. He looks like he's aged 10 years since he's been at Tottenham, and that's what that Tottenham job has done.
I think we need Wayne to give Ryan Cherky some pointers on how to actually score a goal from the halfway line.
It was like watching the curling, the Winter Olympics.
Okay, well, there is only one place we can start this week's Wayne Rooney show off with. Quiet game at Anfield on Sunday, Wayne. You watched that in the Match of the Day studios. It had pretty much everything, didn't it?
Yeah, no, I thought it was a great game. I thought maybe not the quality in which we've seen over, the last few years in the Man City Liverpool game, but I thought City started the game really well. First half with a better team by quite a long way, I thought. And then second half, Liverpool come out and a lot of energy, a lot of intensity, and took the game to City. And it deservedly went 1-0 up. Great strike from Szoboszlai again. And then, obviously, a great finish to the game. I think Bernardo Silva was everywhere during the game. Thought really good. Gets a goal and Haaland with the penalty. And then the madness at the end of...
what was going on there, man?
What did they were checking for a penalty for Liverpool as well, weren't they? And then Cherky shoots and Haaland gets pulled back. Then he pulled Szoboszlai back and goal gets disallowed. And a free kick and a red card. So yeah, it's I suppose in the rules it's the right decision, but I think I seen Pep talking about after the game, a bit of common sense probably would have been better, but it would have been interesting to see if it was 1-1, because that would have caused massive issues, problems. I think.
No, 100%. But I think that's taking the fun out of the game, man. That is. VAR getting involved when they don't need to. Why are you interfering with that? I mean, I don't think it benefits anybody that for you to interfere there and give Szoboszlai a red card. I'm not even a Liverpool fan, but I looked at that and was like, the whole thing's just anti-football. There was no fun about it. Like that had the potential to be one of the best footballing moments of the season, and it's just been ruined.
It was easier just to give the goal away and see the game, let them kick off and the referee finish the game, but. They have gone by the rules, but again, I'm sure everyone at Liverpool City, probably around the country, wouldn't have minded if they let the goal stand.
I just thought it was made even more interesting by the fact that Haaland and Szoboszlai are really good mates as well, aren't they? It must be horrible going in that situation. Like Haaland said at the end, didn't he? I feel really bad for him because he's now got a 3-game ban. I guess, Wayne, both teams are just left unhappy, and that's probably why it feels even more wrong.
Yeah, well, I think for Haaland, because obviously when it was a foot race, Haaland, you could clearly see was going to win the race, and he had to tap in. He would have just tapped it in, got a second goal. So yeah, I think listen, it's an odd moment in it, one which you'd never really see. So I suppose that's why everyone's going to be talking about it and questioning the decision. To be fair to the officials, and I've had to go with officials all season, they have gone by the rules, and I suppose they've got the right decision, but a bit of common sense would have been nice for once.
When we first came on here, we were debating because Haaland did say that Szoboszlai was going to get a 3-game ban. We think it's just a 1-game ban. In fact, let's bring in Dale Johnson now, the BBC Football Issues correspondent, because he can help us, hopefully, Dale, clear it all up. Firstly, is it just a 1-game ban?
Dale. Yeah, it's just a one-game ban for denying a goal-scoring opportunity. Yeah, so it just misses midweek.
All right, now do the hard bit and decipher all the rest of it, please, will you?
Yeah, so the important thing is really you've got to separate the two incidents. I think the reason why it seems so confusing and unjust to people is because the initial pullback from Haaland when he was going to go through to score is what people will look at and say, well, it was going to be a goal. But you've then got to separate that to the second part, which is Szoboszlai was about to slide in and stop the ball going into the net. And he couldn't do that because he was pulled back by Haaland. So in essence, Manchester City would have scored a goal because Haaland had committed a foul. And really, I called it live when it happened that this was going to end up with a disallowed goal and a red card, because I just do not see how, even though football will hate it, fans will hate it about the spirit of the game, I just don't see how the VAR could leave it alone when Szoboszlai could have stopped the goal. So all that's happened here is the VAR has taken it back to the original decision, which would have happened because if Szoboszlai would have cleared it off the line, the referee would have pulled back the advantage and shown the red card. So what has actually happened is what would have happened if Haaland hadn't pulled back his opponent.
I get what you're saying, but I mean, if you're going to send somebody off for a goal-scoring opportunity, the ball's gone in the back of the net, innit? It's the second part, I know.
But would it have gone in the back of the net without the foul? That's the question. It did go in the back of the net because of the foul. So that's the question.
I know. But it just doesn't feel right. Do you know what I mean, Dale? Yeah, the rules have got in the way of the beauty of the game. But
I think it's also because because the end of the game was so dramatic and Liverpool were pushing up and it was like this was going to be the perfect ending to a game which was totally crazy in the last 10 to 15 minutes. It would have been like the icing on the cake for the match. And because it was stripped away, I think that's what really people don't like, and it makes people feel like it's anti-football, even though really I don't think it is in this specific case.
It's definitely the right decision in the end, but it's just obviously it's frustrating and once you look at the rules, you understand why it's given, but it just takes all the passion. And I think I prefer it not to have VAR because I think it's terrible. I think it gets good decisions, of course it does, but when it gets big decisions wrong, I'm not in this case it hasn't, but when it gets big decisions wrong, then I just think it's there to get decisions right, and ultimately it needs to be doing that more than what it is, in my opinion.
But I just think it's the last minute of the game. Football's meant to be about fun and happiness. Just everybody just wants to go home. Let the goal stand. Let's all get out. Yeah.
Think of it this way: Szoboszlai can't play in midweek now. Where I can't remember if Liverpool are playing midweek, but would their opponents want Szoboszlai to actually miss the game? When they'd probably prefer it, wouldn't they? And what about if that?
But I've lost the Premier League title on goal difference, so that goal,
I was literally about to say that.
That goal might make a big difference.
That one goal could be important for Liverpool as well, in terms of that conceded goal could make a difference to them. So it works on both sides in terms of that.
I think we need Wayne to give Ryan Cherky some pointers on how to actually score a goal from the halfway line. Because if he just put some welly behind it, right? If he just hit that with a bit of intent, none of this would be happening. It was just the slowest ball going over the line.
We were saying here, Joe. I was saying in here when we watched the game, it's like it was like watching the curling, the Winter Olympics.
Yeah. It's so true.
Slow, I was rolling that slow. But no, it was a good moment, and it was a fun moment, and it's obviously being taken away from us. So
whatever happens, we're still going to be talking about it, though, aren't we? When people are saying we've been robbed of one of the best moments of the season, we haven't, because we still got to see it, just in a slightly different way. Dale, before we let you go, because there's so much to get into with this game, I just wanted to ask you about the Manchester City penalty as well for Alisson's foul on Matheus Nunes. The ball appeared to be heading out. Well, it was. Did you view that as a penalty?
Yeah, I think it's a tough one because it's clearly that the penalty's been played for, hasn't it? Because he knows that the keeper's coming, so he's using the keeper coming out. But the bottom line is that the keeper has come out in a way whereby he's collided with the attacker. So I think that's one of those penalties where it's not really going to cause that much controversy, even though the player certainly knows what he's trying to win in that situation.
Wayne, I'm interested in what the Match of the Day office were saying at that point, because you'd had a goalkeeper and a forward in there.
It's a penalty, in my opinion, definitely. I think Alisson, who's an experienced keeper, great goalkeeper, has just made the wrong decision. He's come out and nowhere near the ball and takes the attacker out. So it's a clear penalty. We had it years ago with Paul Robinson when we played Blackburn, Chicharito, very similar. And I think the ball was still in play when Alisson, even though Silva's not going to get, was Silva?
And Nunes thing.
And even though he's not going to get there to keep the ball in play, but the ball's still in play when Alisson takes him out. So it's 100% penalty from my point of view.
Dale, thank you for joining us. I imagine it's been a busy evening, and I imagine everyone from the BBC has pretty much been ringing you saying, can you explain that one to us?
It's certainly a busy evening now, that's correct.
Well, we'll let you go. Thank you for joining us. It probably won't be the last time we'll speak to you this season.
Great, thanks very much.
Let's discuss the game as a whole, Wayne. And the first half, you said before that Manchester City were by far the better team. What did you think wasn't working for Liverpool in the opening 45?
I think they were really struggling in midfield to get to grips with City, and Semenyo coming in off the line, Silva. City were getting in some really good positions in behind the midfield and causing big problems. And even Haaland, I think Haaland had a different game today to what he normally would. I think he created 3 or 4 really good chances for City as well. He obviously gets an assist in the second half and a goal, but it was a different performance. He went at his best, but he was a bit more creative and trying to set his teammates up than. Yeah, I think you probably do overanalyze everything outside the pitch. I don't think it affects you that much. You're probably a little bit quieter, but that's it.
Okay, how do you think this leaves the title race? Because as neutrals, it certainly makes it exciting, doesn't it? And the fact that Arsenal still have to go to the Etihad too.
I think this is massive for City, and I think if they'd have lost this, I think Arsenal would have been a lot more confident about.
Bernardo Silva said it, didn't he? He said post-match. I knew something like I think the whole team knew that before the game we had the feeling that it would be over if we didn't win.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, do you know what? It's still pretty early. I think, what is it now? 6-point gap? I don't think that's massive. And I think all it takes is a couple results not to go your way, and it can be really detrimental. But the way Arsenal are playing, I think that loss against United was a bit of a wake-up call for them. And they've gone and it spurred them on a little bit more. But I think having City hot on their tails is only good for the league, and it's going to be a much better title race, because I don't want to see it wrapped up and done by February.
Still a lot of games to go.
Oh, there's the former manager in him coming out, isn't it? There's a lot of games to go. How will Mikel Arteta have been feeling watching the end of that game, though, Wayne? When Liverpool 1-0 up, he will have been happy. And then, yeah, it does just put a bit of... I mean, ultimately, though, I was thinking about it. It's just where we started the weekend. It was 6 points at the start of the weekend. Nothing's changed.
The effect it can have is huge, because I remember when we were in title races, and if you played the Saturday or you played earlier and you win, and then you see the gap at 9 points just by coming back to 6. And the way it's happened as well, because obviously Liverpool going a goal up, you're thinking, if this stays at 9 points, then, you know, what a boost that is for us. But then City coming back, you waste energy watching it 100%. And so I'm sure Arteta will be just telling his players to focus on their job, what they have to do, because you can get caught up in it and looking at other people's results, and I don't think that's a good thing.
Do you think that's going on with the Arsenal lads right now? Do you think they're looking at other results and stuff and going,
100%,
we might be...
100%, yeah. And they'll be looking at the fixtures coming up and trying to work out how many points they feel they'll win or City will win. You get caught up in it all, and in the end, all that matters really is if you win your games. That's it.
What does this all mean for Liverpool, Wayne? 6th and 4 points behind Chelsea. I'm sure you'll be very quick to point out they're also 5 behind Man United in that battle for the top 4 or those European places. Where does it leave them? I'm going to say it before you guys were about the fact that United were ahead.
Is it 5? I didn't realise it was 5 points.
Yeah, they're lagging behind, Wayne. I know. It's almost like.
Oh, you made me almost go and double check. Of course you knew.
Normality is being restored. Arsenal, Man United getting better, and then Liverpool going back down. It's amazing.
No, I think for Liverpool, it's the whole season really has been a concern for Liverpool, and as obviously I've pointed out on here many times. But yeah, I actually thought the second half they were brilliant today, and they have been good in certain games and not picked up the results. So yeah, I think it just brings a little bit more pressure on Arne Slot, I'd imagine. And now they've got a battle on to try and make a Champions League place. So yeah, I think there'll be pressure coming on Arne Slot at the end of the season. I don't think Liverpool will change anything now, but in the summer it'll be really interesting depending on where Arne Slot's job might be that he has to finish the Champions League places. So that brings a little pressure on.
Fifth will probably get you Champions League, and I reckon they can get fifth. But if he doesn't get Champions League, he's gone. Xabi Alonso is already booking.
Stop this! I'm sure you're his agent every week.
He is. He's looking around houses in the northwest, and he's trying to see if his old gaff is still there. Trust me.
Right, that's a debate for another day. Let's move on to one of the other big talking points from the weekend. Tottenham captain Christian Romero was sent off for the second time this season. Of course, you guys will have seen this one because it came in the 2-0 defeat to Manchester United. We will come on to that, guys. But his disciplinary record hasn't been great, Wayne. He's had 6 red cards since he joined Spurs. He's the first player to be sent off twice this season. There's so many stats kind of going against him, but given everything, the backdrop of everything going on at Spurs, how detrimental was that, and how would you feel as his teammate or his manager?
I actually think it was a little bit harsh, the red card yesterday. And I can see why it's been given. But I think he's gone with a sad foot, and I think it's a little bit harsh, but I can see why it's been given. Yeah, I think for players, I've played against or played with players, I was like that as well. Sometimes you lose your head at times, and I think he's done that throughout his time at Tottenham. I think what doesn't help, obviously, is his comments in the week before about the lack of players Tottenham having. So yeah, he's clearly speaks his mind as well. But unfortunately, you've got to go and back that up with performances when you're vocal like that, and I don't think he's done that. So yeah, I think all it's got to do is bring more pressure on Thomas Frank. I think, which I feel for Thomas Frank at the minute, because he looks tired. He looks like he's aged 10 years since he's been at Tottenham, and that's what that Tottenham job has done to him in a short period of time. So I hope they stick with him because he's a fantastic manager, but I think it's going to be very difficult for them to do that. And you don't need your captain going out getting sent off on a regular basis or being as vocal as he was this week.
It's just petulance, isn't it? It's like, I don't know. I think if I saw my club captain doing that, I'd be devastated. Because do you know what, we talk about like how important leaders are in the dressing room in modern football and how there's a lack of leaders and whatever. You don't want your leaders going out there and doing that. What are lads like Xavi Simons and the younger lads in that squad meant to look up to if that's your captain?
Yeah, but I think that happens, and sometimes you're captain for that reason. You know, how many times we've seen Alan Shearer, we've seen Roy Keane as captains of football clubs, myself, Steven Gerrard, going and getting sent off in big games.
But they backed it up on the pitch.
Yeah, no, but for making silly decisions. So that's just part of the game, and sometimes, you know, that enthusiasm, that drive to go and win boils over at times, and unfortunately that's the case. You look at Zidane in the World Cup final, his last ever game. You know, imagine how he felt after that game when they lose that and stuff like that. So, and what his teammates felt then when they lose that. So it happens. I think it's part of the game, and you just hope that he'll learn from it and try and improve on his disciplinary record.
Wayne, does it change your mentality when you are captain? So did you play slightly differently when you were captain? Because I guess you still want to be the same player, but you have that added responsibility. Did you change at all?
Yeah, you try not to. I think normally you know, when I become captain, I was a little bit older, and I have matured on the pitches as well. So, yeah, I think you think about the game a little bit more, and you're thinking when you're young, you're just playing, and you're thinking about trying to score goals all the time and help the team win games. Where when you're a bit older and you do become captain, you're trying to be an example for your teammates, but also you're that link between the manager and your teammates as well. So you're sort of in an in-between position of teammate and manager, and so you just need to get that balance right. But I don't think it changes you that much on the pitch.
I think though he's put his club into such a bad position right now, because this is his second sending off, I think, at a season. So now he's getting a 4-game ban, and they're potentially in a relegation battle now as well.
That was my next question to Wayne. Do you think that Thomas Frank's looking over his shoulder? Are they in a relegation battle, Wayne?
Yeah, you'd have to say they are. The current form, West Ham have been in good form. Forest are in and out, so they pick up results here and there. I think it's 7 games. Tottenham haven't won in the last 7 games, so they have to be. I think they can't think that they're not in a relegation battle where they are. So yeah, I think they'll definitely be looking over the shoulder.
It's so ridiculous as well for a club like Tottenham to be in that position. They're the 9th richest club in the world. They've got one of the best stadiums in the world. They've got a brilliant training ground, but the fans don't care about any of that. Like, who cares if like Beyonce's playing at your stadium if you can't win a couple of football
I went and
matches?
watched her there. She was very good.
But I'm saying like because the talk from the board and stuff is, oh, look at what we've done and etc. etc. But that doesn't mean anything when you can't win football games and win trophies.
I think the frustration from the fans is it's boiling over, obviously because of results, but I don't think they know who to blame now that Daniel Levy's gone. Whether who did he blame on the board, or is it the manager, is it the players? So, and I think that's why for Thomas Frank, he's probably getting more than he would have normally if Daniel Levy was still there, say, for instance. So, so that's why I feel for him. And ultimately, Tottenham are not, the players have not been good enough. So I think they're the ones you have to look at.
If I'm putting my 2 pence in, I think Thomas Frank needed to go a lot earlier in the season. I think, I know they always say give managers a time. I think we're giving managers too much time at the moment. I think some managers, you could tell after about 3 or 4 games, you're out of depth here. This club is way too big for you. Thanks, but this isn't going to go any further. And I think the Tottenham board should have made that decision a while back.
No, I still think he's a fantastic manager, and what he's done at Brentford shows that. And sometimes clubs suit you, sometimes it doesn't. But for Thomas Frank now, I think he's just got to keep going and try and get the lads to pick up more points and hope for the best in the summer, I think. Whereas now, if Tottenham be looking, if they do get rid of him, who did he bring in? Do they have a positive effect on the team, on the pitch? So I'm sure they'll be looking at all different scenarios and trying to go with the best decision.
There's a Portuguese manager that's free if they want it.
The one thing Thomas Frank did say post-match was that he was pretty pleased at like the spirit that they showed, because obviously they went behind, or they went down to 10 men quite early on. So there was one positive to get from him there. But from a Manchester United point of view, don't worry, we don't ever do a podcast without talking about Man United, especially when they've won. What did you make of it, Wayne? Because the calls for Michael Carrick to get the job are only getting louder.
Yeah, and listen, he's been incredible. I think that the biggest thing I could say is I'm enjoying watching Man United play, and there's a buzz around the football club which there hasn't been for a long, long time. So I think that's a huge pat on the back for Michael, for all his coaches he's brought in, because, and I was at what game was it? The previous game, the Fulham game. And it just suits him. It suits Michael Carrick. When you look down in the dugout and he's stood there, he's got a calmness about him. He's making the right decisions, the right changes at the right time. And obviously they've won the 4 games. So you just hope he keeps the performance up, keeps getting results, and almost forces Man United to make decisions to give him the job. But yeah, as I said, there's a long way to go in the season, and if he could make Champions League football and for next season and stay in them positions. And look, you never know. City aren't that far away in second place, so you just got to keep going game by game and hope. And if he does that and stays in a position where he is now in the league, I think it'd be very difficult for the Man United bosses not to give him the job.
I think you're quite right. Do you know what it is? The only thing that I'm weary of, because I see a lot of people online saying Michael Carrick can't get the job, Michael Carrick can't get the job. I think Michael Carrick 100% get the job. And I think what he's shown here by bringing in people like Steve Holland is he's maybe looked at areas where he might be a little deficient, and he's been able to plug those gaps with that knowledge around him with the coaches that he's brought in. And I think the biggest test is going to be when we've got more games, when you're not playing one game a week, and you're going to need to tinker with the side a little bit more. But I think right now he's doing everything he can do, and it's so important to get a run of games where you're winning, because it brings that belief back where it's like, oh, we're Man United, and it brings that sort of feeling back when clubs come to Old Trafford and they're scared of playing them. And I think that's what Michael's bringing back. And if you could bridge that psychological gap beforehand, there's no reason why he shouldn't be manager. Who did Zidane manage before he managed Real Madrid? Who did Arteta manage before he managed Arsenal? Who did Pep manage before he managed Barcelona? I think there's precedent there, and bringing in a big name like Luis Enrique, who's to say that's not going to end him in tears anyway? He couldn't handle the pressure from the Barcelona fans when he was there. So I think if he can show he's doing the job already, and he's doing it, so you might as well let him do it.
Yeah, I think it comes from the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer job, and I think Ole's getting disrespected so much with people saying, "Oh, but it didn't work out with Ole, so you can't go Michael." Michael Carrick's a different character to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, a different manager to Ole. And Ole actually, when we look back and look at how everyone's done since Alex Ferguson was manager, Ole was probably one of the better ones at what he done, and we got to a Europa League final. Obviously lost that on penalties. I think he finished second. I played some good stuff at times, so it was just the way it ended with Ole. So yeah, I think Michael is, he's a calming influence on everyone, and he'll just be doing his job. And I'm sure he'd love the job at the end of the season if that's the case. But I think he'll just go about his business quietly. Let the players take all the plaudits when it's going well, and if it's not going well, then I'm sure he'll step in and try and take that pressure off the players. So he's, at the minute, the way he started and the job he's doing is fantastic. So hopefully that can continue.
I feel like I ask you every week, but have you been able to speak to him at all? Exchanged any texts? You don't have to divulge too much.
Yeah, no, obviously spoke to him. Obviously our two lads played as well yesterday in the same team. So yeah, spoke to him, yeah, and he's just, it's more about just as friends really rather than football. So yeah, no, he's no, it's brilliant, because when you're Man United manager, the last thing you need is your friends phoning that and going on about football when he's probably been at it all day and he wants to get away from it. So yeah, no, he's I think he's in a good.
Tottenham Hotspur are the gift that keep giving. They are an unbelievable footballing institution. They have sacked Thomas Frank, and the Tottenham fans who were singing "You're getting sacked in the morning" at Thomas Frank last night have got their way. They have got their dream. Their dream has come true. Thomas Frank has indeed been sacked in the morning. There was a picture that was put up of Thomas Frank, the manager of Tottenham Hotspur. They put it up on the big screen. Tottenham fans were booing it. Tottenham fans were booing the home manager. Now, when you explore all of the problems at Tottenham, I mean this, I genuinely mean this. I'm not saying it was a wrong move to sack him. I kind of understand why he was sacked. I reluctantly think it was the right thing to do because ultimately it's untenable. But I guarantee you this, I could make a list of 100 problems at Tottenham Hotspur and Thomas Frank wouldn't have been on it. Thomas Frank isn't really the problem. There is a structural imbalance at that club. It has gone completely and utterly wrong. And the fact now that Thomas Frank has been sacked it tells us everything about Tottenham. It tells us everything about this kind of new ownership. Thomas Frank was never this new ownership's guy. He was Daniel Levy's guy. And I feel like that lack of power, the lack of a mandate from the board has cost him massively. You could see the disrespect that was piled upon him. Do you remember when Van der Ven wouldn't shake his hand? Christian Romero coming out and speaking publicly the way that he did. He should have been stripped of the captaincy and he should have been fined by Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank looks weak. Now, the point I'm making here is a very complex one because I'm not saying that I disagree with what Romero said. I'm saying that I disagree that it was Romero's place to say it because it is so undermining for your manager. If you are the owner of Tottenham Hotspur, if you are on the board, if you are part of the Lewis family, you're going to look at Romero chatting and you're going to say to Thomas Frank, you've lost total and utter control of your players. Frank needed to use that, even if he agreed with Romero. There is a position to maintain. Sometimes you can say the right thing, but they're not your words to say. Sometimes the truth isn't your truth to tell. And when you are an employee of Tottenham Hotspur, it isn't your place to start spouting about the transfer strategy of the club, to start firing shots at the people that are paying you over $100,000 a week. It can only reflect badly on your manager. You undermine your players, your team, your manager, and he should have been stripped of the captaincy. I think that was the moment that it went incredibly wrong for Thomas Frank. Not the only moment. You know, they haven't won a game in 2026. It kind of went wrong there. They have won 2 of 13 home games this season, which is obviously a major problem. They have got 2 wins in the previous 17 games. This is the worst run that they have been on since 2008 when they sacked their manager. And now it's getting to the stage where, do you know what? Wasn't long ago where I said that Tottenham Hotspur could be relegated. And people laughed at me because they were 12 points clear. It was completely dismissed. I said, look at their fixtures, look at their performances, look at their manager, look at the unhappiness at the club, and tell me that that isn't a team that could be relegated. At the time, it looked impossible because of the form of West Ham. But all it takes, Leeds United, West Ham United, to find a little bit of rhythm, a little bit of form, and suddenly there is a genuine problem that they could be relegated. They are perhaps now the favourite to go down. I think they're more likely to be relegated than Leeds. They're more likely to be relegated than Forest. They're more likely to be relegated than West Ham United. It's perilous for them. And now they just have to get it right. They just have to get it right. And what I'm hearing about the new Tottenham manager, I don't think this is right. And imagine if they go down. They bang on about that stadium all the time. They'd sing about winning European silverware. They are a Champions League playing team. They finished 4th in the Champions League. They could actually be relegated. Like, they don't play now. They've got an 11-day gap because obviously they got launched out of the cup, longed off from the FA Cup immediately. The great cup team, when the year ends in one, a team that at one point had more FA Cups than anyone else. Tottenham Hotspur, a great cup team, out of the cup. They now have 11 days before they play Arsenal. Whoever they bring in, they have to get it right. Now, everybody is talking about De Zerbi. De Zerbi has, maybe coincidentally, maybe not coincidentally, finished at Marseille. So he's available. And you know that De Zerbi was very highly rated. I rate him highly. Very highly rated by Tottenham. In fact, at one point, he was the priority. They wanted him before they wanted Postecoglou. I think De Zerbi is an excellent manager. I really do. I think he's top class. But not for them. Not for them. You look at how De Zerbi likes to play. Look at the way the team, they play between the lines. You look at how brilliant his Brighton team were. And Brighton have gone down a pan since he left. That Brighton team was probably the best. It was better than Potter's team, and it was certainly better than Hertzler's team. His Brighton team was the best Brighton team that there was. And the way that he had them play and the incisiveness, the way that they would play between the lines, they're great. But that's not who this Tottenham team are now. Tottenham are in a relegation battle. The other thing that you have to remember about De Zerbi is fiery, unpredictable. He doesn't toe the party line. And when you think about what's going on at Tottenham, it's not good. So everyone now is kind of talking about the hierarchy. They're being very sympathetic to Frank, and on some level, I have some Frank sympathy. But let's analyse exactly why Tottenham have failed. However bad you think they aren't a side that should be in the bottom 6 of the league. They aren't a side that should be threatened with relegation. They are clearly a team capable of being around 10th, dreaming of qualifying for the Conference League, maybe being a little bit more ambitious for that. So Thomas Frank himself is obviously responsible for major issues at the club. Like, he's got so much wrong. You know, I don't rate their squad. I don't rate their squad at all. In fact, none of their front 6 would get into another top 6 team. None of that front six that played for Tottenham, and don't start talking to me about James Maddison. The geezer, absolutely not. Doesn't get anywhere near any other top six team. There is no player at that club that gets in Villa, Liverpool, nowhere. No, literally nobody, right? So they're not a great team, but they aren't a team that should be going down. Like, whatever you think of them, they're a team of international footballers. Whatever you think of them, they're a team that are competing in the Champions League. So it's going wrong because of Frank, and I think Frank's approach is so off. Tottenham are a proud club. They're a big rival of Chelsea, right? So I send them no love. But I concede, obviously, they're a massive club with a rich history and a fan base who are very proud of their traditions. As well they should be. Tottenham Hotspur like the game to be played in a very particular way. They think that the game is about playing in an expansive, beautiful way. They always sing about their history. Iconic footballers, beautiful footballers, the likes of David Ginola running down the wing, the likes of Paul Gascoigne doing his brilliance in the middle, the spirit of Glenn Hoddle, probably, arguably, if we were talking beyond, we only ever talk about Premier League greats, don't we? If we were talking football greats from this country, Glenn Hoddle, undoubtedly, one of the most natural footballers this country has ever produced. And he was Tottenham. Chris Waddle, Marseille's icon, Chris Waddle. Again, a beautiful footballer. You know, I remember when Gareth Bale was there, and I was going over to Tottenham a lot because obviously whenever Chelsea played there, I'd go. Biggest game of the season for us at one point, you know. I used to love going over there. They would always be, you'd be on the trains from Liverpool Street, you'd be on the trains, you'd be walking to the ground, whatever. They'd always be singing about Gareth Bale. He's born to play for Spurs. That kind of footballer, you know, that maverick, 1970s throwback, beautiful footballer. They just aren't that now. So they have these traditions that just didn't chime with the way Thomas Frank plays football. Thomas Frank went to Arsenal, their biggest game of the season, and he played about 8 defenders. No ambition. They played Chelsea. They played us at home. That's probably their second biggest game of the season. They played us at home. They hate us. Big rivalry. Real hatred. We've got a great record at the Lane as well that they want to try and erase. They didn't lay a glove on us. We weren't a particularly good team at that time. They didn't lay a glove on us. They didn't turn up. They then lose to West Ham. Tottenham's 3 biggest games of the season. Chelsea, Arsenal, West Ham. They've been done. Of course he's been sacked. And it's the approach. They haven't been done 4-3 and they've been really unlucky. They haven't fought back, been adventurous. David Bentley scoring from the halfway line. None of that. He just gets slapped up and allow Eze to score a hat-trick. So it does just feel like a mess. But now what they need to do is they need to appoint somebody who is going to keep them up. And look, De Zerbi is class. I'm not saying De Zerbi isn't an excellent manager. But is he right for Tottenham? Is he going to work well with ENIC? Is he going to work well with the Lewis family? Is he going to bring the best out of these players? Is he going to respect these players? I think it's a major risk, a major risk. Because we can talk about ENIC. Tottenham fans always want to talk about Levy. We can talk about Thomas Frank. But let's also analyse some of these players. These players have been woeful. These players have been absolutely woeful. Like, the owners undoubtedly haven't got a clue. But these players have absolutely let them down. They haven't turned up. They've thrown their toys out the pram. They have been pathetic in the biggest games. And a lot of these players should be looking at themselves in the mirror. So it's getting to the stage now where who keeps them up? Not who's the best manager for the club. Who keeps them up? Like, do you know what you need to do? You need to smash the glass and get Allardyce. Allardyce is a podcaster now, isn't he? But is that over for him? I don't know. Harry Redknapp. I'm serious. Just get somebody in who knows the club, knows the traditions of the club, knows exactly who they are, what they're meant to be. Get somebody in who is going to keep them up. And I think that maybe the answer is a Harry Redknapp, a Sam Allardyce, somebody like that. Keep them up and then give it to De Zerbi. But then give De Zerbi total control. Buy some good players. Stop looking for bargains. Stop not spending money. Pay the big wages. Tottenham are, and I reluctantly say this, but it's true, they are a big club and they need to start behaving like one. So they've got 11 days to get it right. And then obviously they come back and it's Arsenal. This sacking, it could be dream news, you know, for Pep Guardiola. Because let's face it, if it had been Thomas Frank going to face up against Mikel Arteta wins 4-0. No doubt. So that was in the bag. I still think Mikel Arteta wins whoever they put in there. I don't think Sir Alex Ferguson of 08 could turn this Tottenham team into winners. But there is now a chance. That's all I'm saying. There is now a chance. The Tottenham team under Frank lose. The Tottenham team under whoever it ends up being, maybe they get it right. But even if De Zerbi comes in, I think they just need to simplify football. Get points on the board. Somebody who is a totally functional manager. Just somebody who will, even in the most ugly way, even in the least Tottenham way, it's somebody that totally goes against the traditions of the club. Put some points on the board. Because if they don't, they're going down. And that would be absolutely hilarious. So let me know what you think. But Frank is history. He's no good for me. He's gone. Will Tottenham survive? Let me know in the comments section.
Tottenham Hotspur. Spurs are 16th in the Premier League, just 5 points above the relegation points in that time. So after 8 months, Thomas Frank is out of a job. Simon's alongside me, and so too is former Liverpool, former Tottenham midfielder Danny Murphy. And the odds, as far as the bookies are concerned, out and out favourite to get the job, 8-11. Roberto De Zerbi, who parted company only last night with Olympique Marseille. But what are Tottenham fans thinking this morning? They were booing Thomas Frank's name before kick-off, some of them. As the teams were announced last night, they were chanting once again throughout the game, sacked in the morning at their own manager. They've got their way. Thomas Frank is out of a job. Who's next? Because in 11 days' time, they're at home to Arsenal. Yes, Arsenal in the Premier League. David is a big Spurs fan. He has called in 03717 223344. David, I think you're calling in from Australia. Good morning. What do you want to say to this news? Frank's gone.
I think that he should have gone about a month or 2 months ago. I'm not going to lie. I thought that when we appointed him, it was a sensible appointment. I thought that he would have good in-game management, tactics, strategy. I thought he'd be a good man manager. He has a track record of improving players. I mean, the list is endless. And he's been a massive disappointment. His substitutions are baffling. I think he's totally got the fan base wrong by referring to that lot, the Woolwich, and his first press conference. We may lose more games as we go through this transition. And so, a lot of the blame goes at his door. I think the Chelsea game at home, where we didn't lay a glove on a not very good Chelsea team, was the first red flag. So some of the blame can be at him, but frankly...
He's got 11 players out at the moment, David. 11 players out.
I know that, but the fact is Simon, again, going, well, number one Levy was there, number one Paratici is there. They're not there anymore. This is Daniel Levy's legacy. This is a poor squad. I'm not expecting to replace a generational talent like Kane with like another generational talent. But
what do you mean this is Daniel Levy's legacy?
Because look at the squad. Look at the squad that we have. It's a poor squad. It's a poor squad. We've gone through a period of time where we didn't buy anyone for a year and a half. The first time I spoke to you, this August show was when Conte left, and I said I was very worried. Look how many managers that we've gone through since then.
You could see Daniel. You could say Daniel Levy's legacy has been a state-of-the-art stadium and a European trophy.
Daniel, if you're saying that a state-of-the-art stadium, which is mortgaged the club up to its eyeballs, he is in the Sunday Times rich list. He's worth $500 million at the moment, and he's going to walk away when he sells his shares. His legacy has been that he's done a great job business-wise. He's made a lot of money for Enid and himself. He's charged the highest season tickets, and he's walked away with one trophy. That's fine. He's won 2 trophies in 20-odd years, and in the 2010s, the first decade, we haven't won a trophy since the 1940s, which was interrupted by that minor thing called World War II. So the blame of this, you've got Enid, and I joke about the Lewis family, the next generation of new owners. This has been what it's been for 25 years.
What do you say? What would you say to David, Simon?
Well, he's right in the last point, and right in a lot of the points that he makes, and he's right that this squad isn't great, but this squad is not a 17th, 16th in the league squad.
That's the key.
It is a better squad than that. Is it? If you're comparing it with a top 6 side, yes, I think you can say to some extent, with the exception of perhaps Aston Villa, that it's not a great side and not a great squad. But when you say that it's poor per se, it's incumbent upon the manager and the players to get a better outcome. This squad is not a squad that should be sitting 16th in the league, irrespective of how many injuries they've got.
It's full of internationals still, even with the injuries. It's full of international players.
But that's where they were last season.
Yeah, but they've invested.
Yeah, when you say it's full of internationals, and everyone goes Richarlison, he's Brazil's striker.
Yeah.
You know, if you go back, you remember the 1982 World Cup, Brazil, a great team. They had the Serginho up front, a lump. All due respect to him, he wasn't very good. Richarlison, we paid 60 million quid for him because Everton are FFP issues. He's not good enough. People say internationals very easy these days. We are a mid-table squad and club at the best. Frank should have got more of them. I get that. The fact that 2 seasons running now, we are talking about relegation for a squad of our history, which, Danny, you would know a bit. You played for us.
Oh, we just lost David. He's calling in from Australia.
He's right in terms of the recruitment should have been better. But this squad of players should be in the top half of the table.
I'm looking at the Tottenham Hotspur official statement that's now come in. Results performances have led the board to conclude that a change at this point in the season is necessary. Darren's a big Spurs fan. Darren, your reaction. Good morning.
Hi, morning, mate. Where do we start? I mean, Thomas Frank was so completely out of his depth tactically. No, the way that he was the fans and vice versa. However, let's get real here. We've had Conte, we've had Mourinho, we've had Pochettino, we've had everybody. The fault of where we are, there is only one thing, and that is the owners. And it has been, not last season, this season, 10 years of mismanagement. No, since Paul Barber left our football club, we have had nobody who knows anything about football there. We've got a sporting director from Aston Villa, yeah? Well, how have they done the last few years without him? What has happened at Tottenham under Daniel Levy's chairmanship, but he was working for ENIC, is we've bought all these players for 50 or 60 million quid. It's all about a transfer fee, and a transfer fee is like a mortgage. They haven't paid the wages. There is not one of the front 6 that will get into another top 6 team. And it doesn't matter who you have as manager of that club with these owners. You might as well let Chirpy the mascot be in charge till the end of the season. Because it is such gross negligence as management that Tottenham Hotspur are going to end up like Leeds United did and Newcastle United did with the way that they are run. And I am telling you, and I said this in December, and everybody laughed at me, and I wish I'd have backed it at 300-1. They have not got the players with the bottle or anyone who knows anything about football to get them out of this. Roberto De Zerbi will last 5 minutes under this Tottenham regime.
Darren, let me put this to you before you go. You're going to stay up?
I don't think we are, no. And can I just say one other thing before I go? I don't think we are. It's heartbreaking. I can say one other thing.
Go on.
That sums up Tottenham at the moment, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you know that a load of season ticket holders got emails and letters 2 weeks ago about a recalibration in pricing for next season? That's what Tottenham's become. That's what Tottenham Hotspur, my football team, has become.
Darren, thank you very much indeed for the call. Tottenham say this morning Thomas Frank has conducted himself with unwavering commitment, giving everything in his efforts to move the club forward. But clearly, it wasn't enough, was it? Because Thomas Frank is looking for a new job, sacked in the last half an hour. We're live in TalkSport. More calls coming up from you after this 10:30 bulletin. 03717 223344.